A man stands before the door of a multi-million-dollar penthouse, toolbox in hand, but all he can think about is running away. Through the transparent glass, he sees a woman sitting motionless in the opulent room, not crying, not moving, just silent as a living statue. There is something in that emptiness that evokes a familiar pain in Daniel Cross. He's been there before, and instead of turning away, he knocks. That small decision will change everything. Follow my story to the end. Like and comment on the city you're viewing to let me know how far this story has come. Daniel Cross had learned to recognize the sound of money. It wasn't something you heard. It was something you felt in the silence. The kind of silence that lived in marble lobbies with 20-foot ceilings, in hallways where your footsteps disappeared into carpet so thick it might as well swallow you whole. The kind of silence that reminded you exactly how far you were from belonging. He shifted the toolbox to his other hand and checked the address again on his phone. 43rd floor, penthouse suite. The building manager had been specific. Leak in the guest bathroom, probably a loose connection behind the wall. Quick job, 2 hours max, maybe 3 if the pipes were older than they looked. Daniel had stopped being surprised by what rich people considered an emergency. The elevator doors opened with a whisper, depositing him into a private foyer that probably cost more than his truck. One door. That was it. Just one massive door with brushed steel handles and a security camera angled down at him like a judging eye. He pressed the doorbell and waited. Nothing. He pressed it again, then knocked. Still nothing. Daniel checked his phone. The building manager had confirmed the appointment an hour ago. Someone named Olivia Hart. The name meant nothing to him, but the address meant money, and money meant he couldn't afford to mess this up. His daughter's daycare bill was due in 3 days, and his truck had started making a sound that promised expensive things in his near future. He knocked harder this time. "Miss Hart, it's Daniel Cross. I'm here about the bathroom leak." The door opened so suddenly he nearly stumbled forward. The woman standing there didn't look like someone who lived in a penthouse. She looked like someone who'd been wearing the same clothes for 2 days. Her hair was pulled back in a messy knot, and there were shadows under her eyes that makeup might have hidden once but didn't anymore. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe 30, maybe a little older, and she stared at him like she'd forgotten he was coming. "You're the handyman," she said. Not a question. "Yes, ma'am. Daniel Cross. The building manager said you had a leak?" She blinked, processing this information slower than seemed normal. "Right, the leak. Come in." She stepped aside, and Daniel walked into the kind of apartment that existed in a different universe from his own. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around 2 walls, offering a view of the city that probably never got old for people who could afford to see it every day. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. Clean lines, expensive fabrics, nothing out of place. Everything was white or gray or some shade of beige that rich people probably had a fancy name for. Everything except the woman, who looked like she'd been dropped into this space by accident. "The bathroom's this way," she said, already walking. Daniel followed her down a hallway lined with abstract art that might have been paintings or might have been tax write-offs. The guest bathroom was at the end, and sure enough, there was a water stain spreading across the ceiling near the corner, a small puddle forming on the marble floor below. "I'll need to check the pipes in the wall," Daniel said, setting down his toolbox. "Might take a couple hours." "Fine." She was already turning to leave. "I'll need to shut off the water to this part of the apartment. You'll still have water in the other bathrooms, but this one will be out of commission until I'm done." "That's fine. And I might need to cut into the drywall depending on what I find. I can patch it up, but you might want a professional painter to..." "Do whatever you need to do." Her voice was flat, like she was reading from a script she'd memorized but no longer believed in. She left before he could say anything else. Daniel stood there for a moment, listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway. Something wasn't right. He'd been in enough homes, rich ones, poor ones, everything in between, to know when someone was barely holding it together. The apartment was immaculate, but the woman looked like she'd stopped caring somewhere around Tuesday. "Not your problem," he reminded himself. "Fix the leak, get paid, go home." He turned off the water valve and got to work. The leak wasn't as simple as the building manager had suggested. The connection was fine, but the pipe itself had developed a hairline crack, probably from age and water pressure. Daniel worked carefully, removing the section of wall he needed to access the damaged area. The sound of his tools echoed in the bathroom's silence, the wrench turning, the saw cutting, the quiet curse when his hand slipped. An hour passed, then another. He was repositioning the new pipe section when he heard something that made him stop. It wasn't loud, just a sound that didn't belong in the apartment's carefully maintained quiet. He set down his wrench and listened. Nothing. He went back to work, but the sound came again. This time he recognized it. Someone crying. Trying not to, but failing. Daniel stared at the wall in front of him. Not your problem. Finish the job. Get paid. Go home to Emma. But his hands had stopped moving. He'd made that sound before. 3 years ago, sitting in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and failure, holding his wife's hand while machines beeped and doctors used words like complications and couldn't save her. He'd made that exact sound, the kind that came when you were trying to hold yourself together in a world that had just shattered. Daniel set down his tools and walked out of the bathroom. He found her in the living room, sitting on one of those expensive couches that looked uncomfortable because they were designed to be looked at, not lived on. She wasn't crying anymore. Or maybe she'd never really started. She was just sitting there, staring out the window at the city below, perfectly still. He should have gone back to work. Should have minded his own business. Should have remembered that people who lived in penthouses didn't want sympathy from handymen who drove trucks held together by rust and prayer. But he didn't go back. "Are you okay?" he asked. She didn't turn around. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." Now she did turn, and there was something in her eyes, surprise maybe, or annoyance, or something else he couldn't name. "Excuse me? Sorry, I didn't mean—" Daniel stopped, regrouped. "I just heard something, and I wanted to make sure you were all right." "I'm fine," she said again, and this time it sounded like a door closing. Daniel nodded. "Okay, I'll just get back to work then." He turned to leave, made it 3 steps before her voice stopped him. "Do you ever feel invisible?" He turned back. She was still staring out the window, her reflection ghostly against the glass. "What?" he said. "Invisible." She said the word slowly, like she was tasting it. "Like you're here, but no one actually sees you. They see what you do, or what you have, or what you can give them, but they don't see you." Daniel stood there, toolbox still in hand, completely out of his depth. This was the moment to make an excuse and leave, to say something polite and meaningless and get back to the bathroom where things made sense. Instead, he heard himself say, "Yeah, I know what that feels like." She looked at him then, really looked at him, for the first time since he'd walked in. "You do? My wife died 3 years ago," Daniel said, the words coming out before he could stop them. "Car accident. She was pregnant with our second kid. I had a daughter at home, 14 months old, and suddenly I was a single dad with a job that barely paid the bills and a family that kept asking if I was okay. Everyone wanted to help, but no one actually wanted to see how not okay I was. They wanted me to be the brave widower who was handling everything. So that's who I became. And after a while, I forgot there was anyone else underneath." He hadn't planned to say any of that. Hadn't talked about Sarah like that in longer than he could remember. The words just came out, pulled by something in the way this stranger was looking at him. Olivia Hart sat perfectly still, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "About your wife." "Thank you. How old is your daughter now?" "Emma just turned 4 last month." "4!" Olivia's expression shifted, something softening around the edges. "That's a good age." "It's a loud age," Daniel said, and was surprised to hear himself almost smile. "She asks about 700 questions a day, most of them starting with why or what if. What if what? What if cats could talk? What if dinosaurs came back? What if the moon fell down?" Daniel shifted his weight, suddenly aware that he was still standing in the middle of her living room holding a toolbox. "She's got a big imagination." "You're lucky," Olivia said quietly. "Yeah, I am." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable exactly, but it was heavy with things neither of them knew how to say. Daniel could feel the weight of his toolbox pulling at his arm, reminding him that he had work to finish and a daughter to pick up from daycare in 2 hours. "I should let you get back to work," Olivia said, as if reading his mind. "Yeah, I've still got to install the new pipe and patch the wall." He turned to go, made it almost to the hallway before her voice stopped him again. "Daniel?" He looked back. She was still on the couch, but something about her had changed. She looked less like a statue and more like a person. "Thank you," she said, "for asking if I was okay. Most people don't bother. Most people should." He went back to work, but the apartment felt different now. Less like a museum and more like a place where someone actually lived, even if that someone had forgotten how. Daniel finished installing the new pipe, tested the connections, and started patching the drywall. He worked methodically, measuring twice and cutting once, the way his father had taught him before his father decided that family was optional and California was calling. His phone buzzed. Text from the daycare. "Just a reminder, pickup is at 5 p.m. today. Emma's excited to show you her painting." Daniel smiled despite himself. Emma's paintings were mostly enthusiastic blobs of color with stick figures that might have been people or might have been trees, depending on her mood. He loved every single one. He was cleaning up his tools when Olivia appeared in the doorway. She was holding 2 mugs of coffee. "I thought you might want this," she said, offering him one. "Unless you don't drink coffee. I should have asked first. I just assumed—" "Coffee's great," Daniel said, taking the mug. "Thank you." They stood there in the bathroom doorway, drinking coffee in a silence that felt less awkward than it should have. The patch job was drying on the wall behind them, and Daniel's tools were spread across the floor in organized chaos. "You were right," Olivia said suddenly, "about being invisible." Daniel didn't say anything, just waited. "I run a company," she continued, "Heart Industries. We do corporate acquisitions, market analysis, investment strategy. I've spent the last 8 years building something that matters, or at least that's what everyone keeps telling me. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being a person and started being a position. CEO, boss, Ms. Hart, the woman in the corner office who makes decisions that affect thousands of people." She paused. "But no one knows what I like for breakfast. No one knows I can't sleep past 4 in the morning anymore. No one knows I sometimes sit in my car for 20 minutes after work because I don't want to come home to this empty apartment." She looked at him, and her eyes were bright with something that might have been tears or might have been anger. "And you know what the worst part is?" she said. "I did this to myself. I chose this. Every promotion, every acquisition, every late night at the office. I chose all of it, so I don't even get to be angry about it." Daniel took a sip of his coffee. It was good. The kind of expensive good that came from beans with names like Ethiopian Yirgacheffe and required special equipment to brew properly. But right now it just tasted like coffee, warm and bitter and human. "My wife used to say that the hardest choices are the ones we make for ourselves," he said, "because we can't blame anyone else when they don't work out the way we hoped." "Your wife sounds like she was smart." She was. About most things. Daniel set down his coffee mug on the counter. "She married me, though, so her judgment wasn't perfect." Olivia smiled. Actually smiled, and it changed her entire face. For a second, she looked like someone who might laugh at bad jokes and dance in her kitchen and do all the normal things that normal people did. Then the smile faded, and she was Ms. Hart again. "I should let you finish," she said. "I'm sure you have places to be." "I need to pick up my daughter at 5, but I'm almost done here. Just need to clean up and test the water one more time." "Take your time." She left, taking her coffee with her, and Daniel went back to work. But something had shifted. The apartment still looked the same, still too perfect. Still too expensive, still too much like a showroom. But now he could see the edges where the perfection cracked. The coffee mug ring on the marble counter that someone had tried to wipe away but hadn't quite managed. The stack of unopened mail on the kitchen table. The throw blanket on the couch that was wadded up instead of artfully draped. Small things. Human things. He finished cleaning his tools and tested the water. Everything held. The leak was fixed, the wall was patched, and in a few days you'd never know anything had been broken. Daniel found Olivia in the kitchen, staring at her phone like it had personally offended her. "All done," he said. "The patch needs 24 hours to dry completely, and then you'll want to paint over it. I can recommend someone if you need a painter. I'll take care of it." She set down her phone. "What do I owe you?" "The building manager said he'd bill you directly. I just work for the property management company." "Right, of course." She looked like she wanted to say something else, but didn't know how. Daniel picked up his toolbox. This was the part where he left, went home, picked up Emma, made dinner, read bedtime stories, and forgot about the sad woman in the expensive apartment, except he couldn't quite make himself walk toward the door. "Can I ask you something?" he said. Olivia looked up. "Okay." "When's the last time you did something just because you wanted to? Not because it was good for business, or because someone expected it, or because it fit into your schedule. Just because it made you happy." She stared at him like he'd asked her to solve a physics equation using only interpretive dance. "I don't remember," she finally said. "Maybe you should try it sometime." "Try what?" "Being happy. On purpose." Daniel left before she could respond, pulling the heavy door closed behind him. The elevator ride down felt faster than the ride up, and by the time he reached the parking garage, he was already thinking about what to make Emma for dinner. Maybe mac and cheese. She'd been asking for it all week. His phone rang as he was unlocking his truck. Unknown number. "This is Daniel." "Hi, Daniel. This is Olivia Hart. From the penthouse. You just left." "Something wrong with the repair?" "No, the repair is fine. I was just wondering—" She paused, and he could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. "Would you like to get coffee sometime?" Daniel stood there in the parking garage, key in hand, truck door half open, completely blindsided. "Coffee," he repeated. "Or not coffee. Whatever. I just thought—" Another pause. "You were right about doing something just because. And I realized I don't have anyone in my life who asks if I'm okay. So I thought maybe we could get coffee, as friends. If that's weird, you can just say no." She sounded nervous. Olivia Hart, billionaire CEO, sounded like a teenager asking someone to prom. Daniel should have said no. Should have made up an excuse about his daughter and his schedule and how busy he was. Should have remembered that people like her and people like him existed in different worlds for a reason. "Sure," he heard himself say. "Coffee sounds good." "Really?" "Yeah. When works for you?" "Saturday? There's a place near the waterfront, Bluebird Cafe. Do you know it?" Daniel didn't, but he could find it. "What time?" 10? "I'll need to bring my daughter. She's 4 and I don't have a sitter on Saturdays." Silence on the other end. Daniel waited for the polite backpedaling, the sudden scheduling conflict, the realization that coffee with a single dad wasn't what she'd had in mind. "I'd like to meet her," Olivia said instead. "Emma, right?" "Right. Okay. Saturday at 10, Bluebird Cafe, with Emma. We'll be there." He hung up and stood there for a full minute, trying to figure out what had just happened. Then he got in his truck, drove to the daycare, and tried not to think about the fact that he'd just agreed to have coffee with a woman who probably made more money in a day than he made in a year. Emma came running when she saw him, her backpack bouncing and her painting clutched in both hands. "Daddy, Daddy, look what I made!" It was a painting of what might have been a house, or might have been a dragon. The sky was green, and the ground was purple, and everything was outlined in thick black marker. "It's beautiful," Daniel said, scooping her up. "Is that our house?" "No, it's a castle, with a princess who fights monsters. A fighting princess. That's my favorite kind." Emma wrapped her arms around his neck, and Daniel breathed in the smell of finger paint and apple juice and pure, uncomplicated love. This was his life. This was what mattered, not penthouse apartments or sad billionaires or coffee dates that probably meant nothing. But Saturday morning came anyway. Daniel dressed Emma in her favorite blue dress, the one with the pockets, because she insisted all dresses should have pockets, and tried to explain where they were going without making it sound like a bigger deal than it was. "We're meeting my friend Olivia for coffee," he said, brushing Emma's hair into something resembling order. "Is she nice?" "I think so." "Does she like dinosaurs?" "I don't know." "Everyone should like dinosaurs," Emma said seriously. "If she doesn't like dinosaurs, she's probably a bad guy." "That's not how bad guys work, kiddo." "Are you sure?" "No," Daniel thought. "I'm not sure about anything anymore." They arrived at the Bluebird Cafe 15 minutes early. It was one of those places that tried too hard to look like it wasn't trying. Exposed brick, mismatched furniture, chalkboard menus written in handwriting too perfect to be accidental. The kind of place where coffee cost $7 and came with a lecture about sustainability. Emma pressed her nose against the window. "Can I get hot chocolate?" "Sure." "With whipped cream?" "If they have it." They should have it. Everyone should have whipped cream. They went inside and Daniel ordered coffee for himself and hot chocolate for Emma. They found a table near the window, and Emma immediately pulled out her coloring book and crayons, settling into the serious business of turning a princess purple. Is your friend coming soon? Emma asked without looking up from her coloring. Should be here any minute. What if she's late? Then we wait. What if she doesn't come at all? Daniel looked at his daughter, at the way she colored with complete focus, tongue sticking out slightly in concentration. Then we drink our drinks and go to the park like we planned. Okay. Emma selected a green crayon and started on the princess's hair. Daddy? Yeah? Are you nervous? Daniel looked at his coffee. A little. Why? You're doing the thing with your leg, the bouncing thing. You always do that when you're nervous. He hadn't even realized his leg was moving. He forced it to stop. You're too smart for your own good, you know that? Emma grinned at him. Mommy used to say that too. Something twisted in Daniel's chest, the way it always did when Emma mentioned Sarah. Not as sharp as it used to be, not as overwhelming, but still there. Always there. Your mom was right about a lot of things. Did she like dinosaurs? She loved dinosaurs, especially the ones with long necks. Brachiosaurus! That's the one. The door opened and Olivia walked in. She looked different. Daniel had only seen her in that penthouse, wearing clothes that looked like they'd been slept in and an expression that looked like giving up. Now she was wearing jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than his truck payment, and her hair was down around her shoulders, and she looked like someone who might actually smile if given a reason to. She saw them and walked over, and Daniel stood up without thinking about it. Hi, she said. Hi. They stood there awkwardly for a second before Emma solved the problem by saying, Are you Olivia? Olivia looked down at her. I am. You must be Emma. Do you like dinosaurs? Olivia blinked, caught off guard. Yes? I think so. What's your favorite? The one with the... She looked at Daniel for help. She's testing you, Daniel said. It's what she does. Velociraptors, Olivia said, making a decision. They hunt in packs. That's pretty smart. Emma considered this, then nodded. Okay, you can sit down. Olivia sat and Daniel saw her trying not to smile. Thank you for that permission. You're welcome. Do you want to color with me? Emma, Daniel said. Ms. Hart probably doesn't. I'd love to, Olivia said, and she actually sounded like she meant it. Emma pushed the coloring book across the table and offered Olivia a red crayon. You can do the dragon, but stay in the lines. It's important. I'll do my best. They colored in silence for a few minutes, Emma with total concentration, Olivia with what looked like genuine effort. Daniel watched them, these two people from completely different worlds, bonding over a cartoon dragon and a box of crayons. You're pretty good at coloring, Emma said eventually. Thank you. I haven't done this in a long time. How long? Olivia thought about it. Maybe 20 years? Emma's eyes went wide. That's longer than I've been alive. It is. You should color more. It's fun. You know what? You're right. Daniel's coffee had gone cold, but he didn't care. He just sat there, watching his daughter teach a billionaire how to stay inside the lines, and thought about how strange life could be sometimes. After the dragon was finished, perfectly colored thanks to Emma's supervision, they ordered pastries and talked about nothing important. Emma told Olivia about her daycare and her best friend Marcus who could burp the alphabet. Olivia told Emma about the office building where she worked and how it had 73 floors. That's a lot of floors, Emma said, impressed. It really is. Do you take the stairs? No, there's an elevator. Oh. Emma looked disappointed. Stairs would be better. You could count them. That's true. I didn't think of that. Most grown-ups don't think of the important stuff, Emma said wisely, and Daniel had to hide his smile behind his coffee mug. Eventually, Emma got distracted by a dog outside the window, and Olivia turned to Daniel. Thank you for coming, she said quietly, and for bringing her. She's wonderful. She is, most of the time. Daniel paused. When she's not turning my living room into a dinosaur excavation site or deciding that brushing teeth is optional. The terrible fours. Something like that. Olivia looked at Emma, who was now waving at the dog through the window. You're lucky. I meant that when I said it before. You're really lucky. I know. Daniel finished his cold coffee. It doesn't always feel like it at 3 in the morning when she's crying because she had a nightmare, or when I'm eating cereal for dinner again because I forgot to go grocery shopping, or when I look at my bank account and wonder how I'm going to make everything work. But yeah, I know I'm lucky. You're a good dad. I'm trying to be. That's more than a lot of people do. They sat there while Emma moved on from the dog to counting cars, her voice a steady stream of numbers that occasionally skipped from 14 to 17 because 15 was apparently boring. Can I ask you something? Daniel said. Sure. Why did you call me? Really? Olivia traced the rim of her coffee cup with one finger. Because you asked if I was okay, and nobody else has asked me that in longer than I can remember. Because you told me the truth about your life, and it made me realize how long it's been since anyone told me the truth about anything. Because... She stopped, then started again. Because I'm tired of being invisible, and you made me feel seen. Daniel didn't know what to say to that. That probably sounds dramatic, Olivia continued. I know I have everything most people want: money, success, a career that matters. But I can't remember the last time someone looked at me like I was a person instead of a position. And you did. In your terrible penthouse bathroom with your toolbox and your honest face, you saw me. So I called you. Because maybe if I could feel like a person for an hour, just 1 hour, it would be enough to remember what that feels like. Emma had moved on from counting cars to making up a song about hot chocolate. Her voice carried across the cafe, off-key and enthusiastic. It wasn't enough, was it? Daniel said. 1 hour. No. Olivia smiled, but it was sad around the edges. It wasn't. Then maybe we should do this again sometime. Really? Yeah. Emma likes you, and she's pretty good at judging character. Anyone who passes the dinosaur test is usually worth knowing. This time when Olivia smiled, it reached her eyes. I'd like that. They stayed for another hour until Emma started getting restless and Daniel remembered he'd promised her the park. Olivia walked them out to the parking lot, and Emma gave her an unexpected hug before climbing into her car seat. Bye, Olivia. You should practice your coloring. I will. Daniel closed Emma's door and turned back to Olivia. They stood there in the parking lot, the morning sun bright overhead, not quite sure how to end this. Thank you, Olivia said finally. For this, for everything. We didn't do anything. You showed up. That's more than nothing. She walked away before he could respond, climbing into a car that probably cost more than his apartment and driving away with a small wave. Emma was already asleep by the time they got to the park, worn out from hot chocolate and coloring and making new friends. Daniel sat in the truck for a few minutes, watching her sleep, thinking about the strange turn his life had taken. He'd gone to fix a leak. That was all. A simple repair job that should have taken 2 hours and meant nothing more than a paycheck, and maybe a good review for the property management company. Instead, he'd met someone who was drowning in success and starving for connection. Someone who'd forgotten how to be happy on purpose. Someone who reminded him that maybe he'd forgotten too. Daniel started the truck and drove home, Emma snoring softly in the back seat, the radio playing songs he didn't know the words to. And somewhere in the city, in a penthouse apartment that was too perfect and too empty, a woman was probably sitting by her window, staring at the view, maybe thinking about coffee and coloring books and what it meant to be seen. The week passed the way weeks do when you're a single parent, in a blur of daycare drop-offs and work calls and bedtime negotiations. Daniel fixed a garbage disposal in a condo downtown, replaced a water heater in a house that smelled like cat food, and spent 3 hours lying under a sink that was technically fine, but the homeowner swore was making a weird noise that turned out to be the refrigerator in the next room. He didn't hear from Olivia. That was fine. That was expected. She was probably busy running her company and making decisions that affected thousands of people and living her separate, complicated life. The coffee had been nice, but that's all it was. Nice. A moment, nothing more. Then his phone rang on Thursday night while he was trying to convince Emma that broccoli was, in fact, a vegetable and not a tiny tree that refused to taste good. This is Daniel. Hi, it's Olivia. Emma looked up from her dinner plate where she'd been arranging broccoli into what she claimed was a dinosaur. Daniel held up one finger in the universal parent signal for, "Give me a minute," and stepped into the hallway. Hey, he said. How are you? I'm good. Busy, the usual. A pause. I was wondering if maybe you'd want to grab dinner sometime. You and Emma, I mean, if you're free. Daniel looked back into the kitchen where Emma was now making the broccoli dinosaur fight with a chicken nugget. Dinner? Or not dinner. We could do something else. I just thought. Olivia stopped, regrouped. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. Good at what? Making friends, having a personal life, being normal. Nobody's normal, Daniel said. Normal's just a setting on the dryer. Olivia laughed, actually laughed, and the sound was so unexpected that Daniel found himself smiling. My wife used to say that, he added. I stole it from her. She had a lot of good lines. She did, Emma called from the kitchen. Daddy, the dinosaur won. Can I have dessert now? Hold on, kiddo. Daniel turned back to the phone. Yeah, dinner sounds good. When? Saturday? I know a place that has really good pizza. Kids love pizza, right? Emma lives for pizza. Perfect. I'll text you the address? Sounds good. They hung up, and Daniel went back into the kitchen where Emma had abandoned the broccoli entirely and was now building a fortress out of chicken nuggets. Was that Olivia? Emma asked. How did you know? You smiled your special smile, the one you only do when something makes you happy, but you don't want to show it too much. Daniel looked at his 4-year-old daughter, who was apparently part-time therapist and full-time detective. Eat your broccoli. Is she coming to dinner? Maybe. Would that be okay? Emma considered this seriously. Is she bringing crayons? I don't think people usually bring crayons to dinner. They should. Saturday arrived with rain and wind that rattled the windows. Emma spent the morning asking questions at a rate that suggested she'd been saving them up all week. What kind of pizza would they get? Could she order her own? What if Olivia didn't like the same pizza? What if the restaurant didn't have chocolate milk? What if it rained so hard they had to swim there? Daniel answered each question with the patience of someone who'd been answering questions for 4 years straight and knew that resistance was futile. They arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes early because Daniel had overestimated traffic and underestimated his own nervousness. It was the kind of place that tried to be fancy and casual at the same time. Brick ovens and cloth napkins, but also paper menus and a crayons cup on every table. Emma spotted the crayons immediately. See? I told you they should have crayons. You were right. I'm right about a lot of stuff. Yeah, you are. Olivia arrived exactly on time, shaking rain from her coat and looking apologetic. Sorry, the weather's terrible. It's fine, Daniel said. We're just glad you made it. They got a booth in the back, away from the noise of the kitchen and the door. Emma claimed the spot next to Olivia and immediately started dividing the crayons into color families, explaining to Olivia which colors were friends and which ones didn't get along. Red and orange are best friends, Emma said seriously. But purple is kind of mean and doesn't like anyone. Why is purple mean? Olivia asked, genuinely curious. Because it's the color of bad guys. Everyone knows that. What about blue? Is blue nice? Emma thought about this. Blue is okay, but green is the nicest. Green is the color of grass and dinosaurs. Hard to argue with that logic, Daniel said. They ordered pizza, half cheese for Emma, half mushroom and sausage for the adults, and fell into conversation that felt easier than it should have. Olivia asked Emma about daycare, and Emma told her about Marcus, who could burp the alphabet, and Sophie, who had a cat named Princess Buttercup. Princess Buttercup is a very good name for a cat, Olivia said. I want a cat, Emma said, but Daddy says we can't have one yet. We live in an apartment that doesn't allow pets, Daniel explained, but maybe someday. When we get a house? Maybe. With a yard? That would be nice. Emma turned to Olivia. Do you have a yard? I have a balcony. Can you see stuff from it? I can see the whole city. Emma's eyes went wide. The whole thing? Pretty much. That's better than a yard. I don't know. Yards seem pretty nice. You can plant things. Have a garden. Do you know how to garden? Olivia paused. No. Do you? Nope. But we could learn. People learn stuff all the time. Daddy says that's what makes us different from rocks. Your daddy is very wise. The pizza arrived, and they ate, while Emma explained her theory that pizza was the best food because it had everything you needed in one place. Bread, cheese, sauce, and sometimes vegetables if you were feeling brave. What about dessert? Olivia asked. Dessert is pretty good too. Dessert is after pizza. That's the rule. You can't start with dessert. Why not? Emma looked scandalized. Because that's not how it works. You have to earn dessert. By eating vegetables? Exactly. Olivia caught Daniel's eye across the table, and they shared a smile. Emma was in full form tonight, opinionated, energetic, completely herself. Daniel had learned early that parenting Emma wasn't about trying to shape her into something else. It was about keeping up. After dinner, Emma insisted on showing Olivia her newest drawings, a series of what she called dinosaur adventures that she kept in a special folder in her backpack. They were mostly scribbles and shapes that required Emma's narration to understand, but Olivia looked at each one like it belonged in a gallery. This one is about a T-Rex who learns to bake cookies, Emma explained, but it's hard because he has short arms. That does seem challenging, Olivia said seriously. He figures it out, though. He uses a spoon. Smart T-Rex. All my T-Rexes are smart. The dumb ones aren't interesting. Daniel paid the bill while Emma collected her drawings and crayons with the efficiency of someone who'd learned early to keep track of her things. They walked out into rain that had softened to a drizzle, the kind that misted your face without actually soaking you. Thank you for coming, Olivia said. This was really nice. Thank you for inviting us, Daniel said. Emma had a great time. I had a great time too. Olivia crouched down to Emma's level. Thanks for teaching me about dinosaurs and pizzas and why purple is mean. Emma threw her arms around Olivia in a sudden hug. You're my friend now. That means you have to come to my birthday party. When's your birthday? Not for a long time, but you still have to come. I'll be there, Olivia said, and Daniel could see she meant it. They said goodbye in the parking lot, and Daniel buckled Emma into her car seat while she chattered about the pizza and the crayons and how Olivia was probably the nicest grown-up besides Daddy. She's sad sometimes, though, Emma said as Daniel started the truck. What makes you say that? Her eyes. They're sad, like yours were when Mommy went away. Daniel looked at his daughter in the rearview mirror. Sometimes Emma was so perceptive it scared him. She saw things that adults had learned to pretend weren't there. Yeah, he said quietly. I think maybe she is sad sometimes. We should make her happy then. How do we do that? Emma thought about it. More pizza, probably, and drawing, and being her friend. Friends make people happy. You're right, kiddo. They really do. They drove home through streets that shined with rain, the radio playing quietly, Emma humming along to songs she didn't know the words to. And Daniel thought about sadness and friendship and the strange way life sometimes brought people together who needed each other without realizing it. His phone buzzed at a red light. Text from Olivia. Thank you again for tonight. Emma's wonderful. You're lucky. He texted back. She thinks you're pretty great too. Same time next week? The response came before the light changed. I'd like that. Daniel drove home with something light in his chest, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, maybe. Or possibility. Or just the simple knowledge that sometimes fixing a leak led to fixing something bigger, something neither of them had known was broken until someone finally asked if they were okay. The dinners became a pattern. Not every week, but often enough that Emma started asking about Olivia on days when they weren't meeting, wondering if she was eating alone in her big apartment with the view of the whole city. Maybe we should invite her over here, Emma said one Tuesday morning while Daniel was attempting to braid her hair into something that wouldn't fall apart before noon. She could see my room. I don't think Olivia wants to see our apartment, kiddo. It's kind of small. Small is cozy. You always say that. I say that to make us feel better about having a small apartment. Emma twisted around to look at him. Don't you want her to come over? Daniel finished the braid, crooked, but it would hold, and met his daughter's eyes. It's complicated. Why? Because Olivia lives in a very different kind of place than we do, with nice furniture and expensive things. Our couch has a stain from when you spilled grape juice last month. So? Stains mean people actually use their stuff. Her couch probably never gets sat on. Daniel kissed the top of her head. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't listen. Fair enough. But Emma's question stuck with him through the day. Through replacing a broken dishwasher in a house that smelled like burnt toast, Through fixing a dripping faucet for an elderly woman who insisted on making him tea and telling him about her grandson who was about your age and very handsome. Through picking up Emma from daycare where she immediately showed him a painting of what she claimed was a spaceship but looked more like a potato with wings. That night, after Emma was asleep and Daniel was sitting on their stained couch with a beer he'd been nursing for an hour, he texted Olivia. Emma wants to know if you'd like to come over for dinner sometime at our place. Fair warning, it's small and the couch has a grape juice stain. The response came faster than he expected. I'd love to. When? Friday? Perfect. What should I bring? Just yourself. And maybe low expectations. He regretted sending that last part immediately, but Olivia's response made him smile. My expectations peaked at couch with character. I think we're good. Friday arrived with Emma in a state of controlled chaos. She'd insisted on helping Daniel clean, which mostly meant moving her toys from one location to another and asking every 5 minutes if Olivia was there yet. She's not coming for 3 more hours, Daniel said, rescuing a stuffed dinosaur from the trash can, where Emma had apparently decided it needed to live. But what if she comes early? Then she comes early. It's fine. Is the apartment clean enough? Emma, it's fine. What if she doesn't like my room? Daniel stopped and looked at his daughter, who was chewing on her bottom lip the way she did when something was actually worrying her. He sat down on the floor next to where she was organizing her toy box. Hey, he said, what's really going on? Emma didn't look at him. What if she sees our apartment and decides she doesn't want to be our friend anymore? Why would she do that? Because it's not fancy. Because we don't have a view of the whole city. Because Emma's voice got smaller. Because maybe she'll think we're not good enough. Daniel pulled her into his lap. Listen to me. Olivia doesn't care about fancy. She lives in fancy and she's lonely there. You know why she keeps coming to have dinner with us? Because we're real. Because you make her laugh and ask her about dinosaurs and don't treat her like she's someone special. But she is special. Yeah, she is, but so are you. And so am I. And our apartment with the grape juice stain is special too. Because it's ours and we're happy here. If Olivia can't see that, then she's not the person we thought she was. Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then, do you think she'll like my dinosaur collection? I think she'll love your dinosaur collection. Okay. Emma scrambled out of his lap. I'm going to organize them by time period. That's more professional. Very professional. Olivia arrived exactly at 6, holding a bottle of wine and looking nervous in a way that Daniel had never seen on her before. She was wearing jeans and a sweater that looked normal. Not expensive normal, but actual normal. And her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. Hi, she said. I brought wine. Is wine okay? I didn't know if you drink wine. I could have brought something else. Wine's perfect. Daniel took the bottle and stepped aside to let her in. Welcome to our humble home. Olivia walked in and stopped, taking in the small living room with its mismatched furniture and Emma's artwork covering one entire wall. The kitchen was visible from where they stood, tiny, with counters Daniel had repainted himself and cabinets that stuck when you tried to close them. The whole apartment could have fit inside Olivia's penthouse living room twice over. It's wonderful, Olivia said, and she sounded like she meant it. Emma came barreling out of her bedroom. Olivia, you have to see my dinosaurs. I organized them by time period. I would love to see your dinosaurs. Emma grabbed Olivia's hand and dragged her down the short hallway to her bedroom. Daniel followed, leaning against the doorframe while Emma gave Olivia a complete tour of her collection. Plastic dinosaurs of various sizes arranged on a bookshelf with the intensity of a museum curator. This is the Triassic period, Emma explained. There weren't very many dinosaurs yet. But then in the Jurassic, she moved to the next section. There were tons. That's when the big ones came. And then the Cretaceous had the T-Rex, which is basically the best dinosaur ever, except some people like Triceratops more, and that's okay too. This is very impressive, Olivia said. You really know your stuff. I read a lot. Daddy says reading is important. Your daddy's right. Emma beamed, then pointed to her bed. And that's where I sleep, and that's my stuffed bunny, Mr. Hopscotch. And that's my nightlight because sometimes the dark is scary. And those are my books. She gestured to a small bookshelf overflowing with picture books and early readers. Do you want to see my favorite? Absolutely. They spent 20 minutes in Emma's room while she showed Olivia every important possession and explained the story behind each one. Daniel watched Olivia listen with complete attention, asking questions and making comments like Emma's room was the most fascinating place she'd ever been. Maybe it was, he thought. Maybe for someone who lived in a penthouse filled with expensive nothing, a child's bedroom full of cheap everything was exactly what fascinating looked like. "Okay, kiddo," Daniel said eventually. "Let Olivia breathe. Dinner's ready." They ate at the small kitchen table, spaghetti and meatballs, because it was the one thing Daniel could make that Emma would actually eat without complaint. The table was barely big enough for three, their knees bumping underneath, and one of the chairs wobbled, but nobody seemed to care. "This is really good," Olivia said. "Did you make the sauce yourself?" "From a jar," Daniel admitted. "I'm not that talented." "He makes really good mac and cheese, though," Emma said. "From the box." "Hey, that's unfair. I add extra cheese. That's cooking." Olivia laughed. "I can't even do that. I usually just order takeout or forget to eat." "You forget to eat?" Emma looked horrified. "How do you forget to eat?" "I get busy with work and lose track of time." "But your stomach reminds you." "My stomach reminds me all the time." "Your stomach reminds you every 30 minutes, Daniel said. "Because I'm growing. Growing takes energy." They finished dinner, and Emma insisted on showing Olivia her drawing collection, every piece she'd made in the last 6 months, complete with detailed explanations of her artistic choices. Olivia sat on the stained couch and looked at each one like it mattered, nodding and asking questions and taking Emma completely seriously. Daniel cleaned up this kitchen, listening to their conversation drift from the living room. Emma's voice bright and enthusiastic, Olivia's quieter but genuinely engaged. At one point he heard Emma say, "This one is my favorite because I used all the colors, and Daddy says that's called ambitious." And Olivia responded, "Ambitious is good. Ambitious means you're not afraid to try things." After the drawing exhibition, it was bedtime. Emma tried to negotiate for more time, but Daniel held firm. "Can Olivia read me a story?" Emma asked. Daniel looked at Olivia, giving her an out. "You don't have to." "I'd like to," Olivia said. So the three of them crowded into Emma's small bedroom, Emma in her pajamas clutching Mr. Hopscotch, Daniel sitting on the floor with his back against the wall, Olivia perched on the edge of Emma's bed with a picture book about a bear who couldn't sleep. Olivia read slowly, doing different voices for each character, and Emma listened with her eyes getting heavier and heavier until finally she was asleep, the book still open on Olivia's lap. They tiptoed out, leaving the door cracked and the nightlight on. In the living room, Daniel poured them each a glass of the wine Olivia had brought, and they sat on opposite ends of the couch, the comfortable silence of people who'd moved past the stage of feeling like they had to fill every quiet moment. "Thank you for coming," Daniel said. "Emma's been talking about it all week." "Thank you for inviting me." Olivia took a sip of wine. "I can't remember the last time I was in someone's home like this. Small and cluttered, real." Olivia looked around the living room. "Everything here means something. The drawings on the wall, the books on the shelf, even that stain on the couch. It all tells a story about the people who live here. My apartment is just space. Beautiful, expensive space that could belong to anyone. You could change that. I wouldn't know where to start." Daniel thought about this. Start with something small. Buy something just because you like it, not because it matches the decor or makes a statement. Put it somewhere you'll see it every day. Like what? "I don't know. What do you like?" Olivia was quiet for a long moment. "I don't remember. Isn't that pathetic? I'm 30 years old and I don't remember what I like." "So figure it out. You've got time." "Do I?" Olivia set down her wine glass. "Sometimes I feel like I wasted so much time building a life I don't actually want to live. I'm good at what I do, great at it, actually. I can walk into a boardroom and make decisions that affect thousands of people and millions of dollars, and I never second-guess myself. But I can't remember the last time I did something just for me. The last time I felt, I don't know, present, here, real." "What changed?" Daniel asked. "Something must have happened to make you realize all this. You knocked on my door. Come on." "I'm serious." Olivia turned to face him. "I was sitting in that apartment, in that perfect empty space, and I was thinking about how easy it would be to just stop, to not get up the next morning, to to not go to another meeting or make another decision or pretend for one more day that any of it mattered. And then you knocked, and you asked if I was okay. And for the first time in years, someone was actually looking at me. Not at CEO Olivia Hart or billionaire Olivia Hart or successful Olivia Hart. Just me. The person underneath all of that. Daniel didn't know what to say to that. The weight of it sat between them, heavy and honest. "I'm glad I knocked," he said finally. "So am I." They talked for another hour, the conversation drifting from heavy to light and back again. Olivia asked about Sarah, really asked, not the polite questions people usually offered, and Daniel found himself telling stories he hadn't shared in years, about how Sarah used to sing off-key in the shower and leave post-it notes with terrible puns around the apartment, about how she'd wanted 3 kids and a dog and a house with a porch where they could drink coffee in the mornings, about how she died before any of that could happen, leaving him with a 1-year-old and a grief so big he couldn't see around it. "How did you survive it?" Olivia asked quietly. "Emma, I had to. She needed me, so I figured out how to keep going." Daniel looked at his wine glass. Some days were better than others. Some days I was just going through the motions, trying to hold it together until she went to bed so I could fall apart in private. But eventually the bad days got fewer and the good days got more, and I learned how to live in this new version of my life that I never wanted but got anyway. "Do you still miss her?" "Every day. But it's different now. It's not the sharp, overwhelming thing it used to be. It's just part of me. Like a scar that doesn't hurt anymore but never fully goes away." Olivia was quiet, absorbing this. Then, "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. I don't think I've ever loved anyone the way you loved your wife. I've had relationships, but they were always transactional, I guess. Built on mutual benefit or convenience or timing. I've never felt that thing you're describing, where someone becomes part of you and losing them would break something fundamental. I don't know if I'm even capable of it." "You are," Daniel said. "You're just scared." "Of what?" "Of the same thing everyone's scared of. Getting hurt, being vulnerable, letting someone see all the parts you usually keep hidden and trusting them not to use it against you." "Is it worth it, being that vulnerable?" Daniel thought about Sarah, about the life they'd built and the life they'd lost. "Yeah. Even knowing how it ended, yeah. It's worth it." They sat there on the couch with the city sounds drifting through the window, car horns and distant sirens and the low hum of life happening everywhere around them. Olivia finished her wine and set the glass on the coffee table next to Emma's coloring book. "I should go," she said. "It's getting late." "Yeah." But neither of them moved. "Daniel?" "Yeah?" "Thank you. For this. For everything. For making me feel like maybe I'm not as lost as I thought I was." "You're not lost. You're just looking in the wrong direction." Olivia smiled. "Where should I be looking?" "Right here. At the life that's happening right now, not the one you think you're supposed to be living." She left a few minutes later, and Daniel stood at the window, watching her walk to her car. She looked back once, waved, and drove away into the night. The next morning, Emma asked if Olivia had liked their apartment. "She loved it," Daniel said. "Good, because I liked having her here. It felt right." Daniel couldn't argue with that. The weeks blurred together in the way they do when life finds a rhythm. Daniel worked, Emma went to daycare, and twice a week, sometimes 3, Olivia joined them for dinner or coffee, or whatever spontaneous plan Emma dreamed up. They went to the aquarium, and Emma narrated the entire experience, explaining to Olivia that sharks were misunderstood and jellyfish were basically aliens. They went to a park, and Emma made Olivia push her on the swings until Olivia's arms were sore. They went to a bookstore, and Emma convinced Olivia to buy her 3 books about ocean animals because Daddy always says reading is important and you're basically Daddy's friend, so that means you think so too. "She's manipulating you," Daniel said, but he was smiling. "I know," Olivia said. "I'm allowing it." Somewhere in all of this, something shifted. The dinners got longer. The conversations got deeper. Olivia started showing up at the apartment unannounced, bringing coffee or pastries or once inexplicably a stuffed whale for Emma because I was walking past a toy store and thought of her. Emma named it Reginald, and it immediately became her second favorite stuffed animal after Mr. Hopscotch. "You're spoiling her," Daniel said. "Is that a problem?" "No, just making an observation." They were in his apartment, Olivia's 3rd visit that week. And Emma was in her room having quiet time, which really meant she was probably reading instead of napping, but Daniel had learned to pick his battles. He and Olivia were sitting at the kitchen table, coffee going cold in their mugs, talking about nothing and everything. "I quit my job," Olivia said suddenly. Daniel looked up. "What?" "Not quit. I'm still CEO, but I delegated most of my responsibilities to my executive team. Turns out I'd been micromanaging things that didn't need micromanaging and ignoring things that did. So I restructured. Now I work normal hours, 40, maybe 50 hours a week instead of 90. How does that feel?" "Terrifying, liberating, both." Olivia wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "I keep waiting for everything to fall apart, but it hasn't. The company's actually doing better because people can make decisions without waiting for me to sign off on every tiny thing. And She paused. "I have time now to do things, to exist outside of work." "What are you doing with all that time?" "Mostly spending it with you and Emma. Is that weird?" "No, but you should probably have other friends too. Put your eggs in multiple baskets or whatever." "I don't want other friends. I like the friends I have." "You have one friend. Two, if you count Emma." "I count Emma, so that's two friends." "That's enough." Daniel smiled despite himself. "You're strange, you know that?" "I'm learning to be okay with that." Emma emerged from her room, hair wild from her not nap, and immediately crawled into Olivia's lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. Olivia adjusted automatically, making room for Emma's elbows and knees. "Tell me a story," Emma demanded. "What kind of story?" "A real one. About when you were little." Olivia thought about this. "When I was little, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I loved animals, and I thought I'd spend my whole life taking care of them. What happened? I grew up. My parents had other plans. They wanted me to study business, take over the family company, so that's what I did. But what about the animals? I forgot about them. For a long time, I forgot about a lot of things." Emma considered this with the seriousness of a 4-year-old who'd just learned something important about the world. "That's sad." "Yeah, it is. You should get a pet now. Then you can remember." "I don't think my apartment allows pets." "Then move." "Emma," Daniel said, "it's not that simple." "Why not? If something makes you sad, you should change it. That's what you always tell me." Olivia caught Daniel's eye over Emma's head, and they shared a look that said, "Your daughter is too smart for her own good, and we're both in trouble." "You know what?" Olivia said. "You're right. Maybe I should look into that." Emma looked pleased with herself. She stayed in Olivia's lap for another 10 minutes, chattering about school and Marcus, who'd learned to burp the entire alphabet now, and a girl named Lily, who had a dog that could do tricks. Then she got distracted by something outside the window and wandered off, leaving the adults alone again. "You don't have to get a pet just because Emma said so," Daniel said. "I know, but she's not wrong. I've spent so long building this perfect life that I forgot to put anything in it that actually makes me happy." Olivia stood up, stretching. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you ever think about what comes next? Like, is this it? Just getting through each day, doing the best you can, trying to be happy with what you have?" Daniel thought about this. "Yeah, that's pretty much it. Why? Is that not enough?" "I don't know. I always thought there'd be something more. Some moment where everything clicked into place and I'd feel like I'd arrived, like I'd figured it all out. But I'm 30 years old and I still feel like I'm waiting for my life to start." "Your life already started. You're living it right now." "But I'm not happy." "Then change something." "What if I don't know what to change?" "Start small. You don't have to fix everything at once." Olivia looked at him for a long moment. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm not wise. I'm just a guy who's been through enough to know that you can't wait for life to be perfect before you start living it." She left an hour later, and Daniel spent the evening thinking about their conversation, about happiness and change and the way people sometimes forgot to build lives they actually wanted to live. 3 days later, Olivia called him at 7 in the morning. "I did something impulsive," she said without preamble. Daniel was still half asleep. Emma was watching cartoons in her pajamas, and his coffee hadn't kicked in yet. "Good morning to you, too." "I bought a dog." That woke him up. "You what?" "I bought a dog. Adopted, technically, from a shelter. He's a mutt, mostly terrier, I think, and he's 3 years old, and his name is Biscuit, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Olivia, can you come over, please? He won't stop barking, and I don't know what he wants, and everything I read online is contradicting everything else, and I think I made a terrible mistake. Daniel looked at Emma, who was now paying attention, her cartoon forgotten. Did Olivia get a dog? She whispered, and when Daniel nodded, Emma pumped her fist in the air like her team had just scored a touchdown. We'll be there in an hour, Daniel said. They arrived to chaos. Olivia's pristine penthouse now contained a small brown dog who was currently destroying a throw pillow with single-minded determination. Olivia stood in the middle of the living room looking lost, her hair in a messy bun, wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt Daniel had never seen on her before. Help, she said. Emma immediately dropped to her knees. Hi, Biscuit. I'm Emma. We're going to be friends. Biscuit abandoned the pillow and launched himself at Emma, tail wagging so hard his entire back half moved with it. Emma giggled and let him lick her face, and Olivia looked at Daniel with an expression that said, I've made a huge mistake. First-time dog owner? Daniel asked. How did you guess? The panic in your eyes was a good clue. I don't know what I was thinking. Emma said I should get a pet, and I was at the shelter dropping off a donation, and there he was in a cage looking sad, and the volunteer said he'd been there for 3 months because nobody wanted him, and I just... Olivia gestured helplessly. I said yes. Okay, deep breath. Dogs are not that complicated. He's already peed on my rug, the expensive one. That's fixable. Do you have supplies, food, bowls, leash, toys? I bought everything the shelter recommended. It's in the kitchen. Daniel spent the next hour teaching Olivia the basics. How to establish a routine, where to put the food and water bowls, how to read what the dog was trying to tell her. Emma helped by demonstrating proper dog petting technique and explaining to Biscuit that he was a good boy and shouldn't be nervous because Olivia was nice even though she looked scared. By noon, things had calmed down. Biscuit was asleep on the couch. On the couch, not the expensive dog bed Olivia had bought. And Olivia looked less panicked and more cautiously optimistic. Thank you, she said. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come. You would have figured it out. I'm not so sure about that. Emma was sitting on the floor next to the couch, petting Biscuit's head while he slept. Can we get a dog now, Daddy? Our apartment doesn't allow pets, remember? But Olivia's does. Olivia's is different. Maybe we should move here then. There's lots of space. Daniel felt his face get hot. Emma, that's not... We can't just... I'm just saying, there's like 10 bedrooms. We could have our own rooms and we could still be together and Biscuit would have friends. It's a 3-bedroom penthouse, not 10, Olivia said, amused. But you're welcome to visit Biscuit any time. Really? Really? Emma looked at Daniel. Can we? We'll see. They stayed for lunch, sandwiches that Olivia made with the careful attention of someone who didn't make sandwiches often. And Emma played with Biscuit while the adults talked. Olivia seemed more relaxed than Daniel had ever seen her, even with dog hair now coating her expensive furniture and a chewed-up throw pillow in her trash can. I think I like having him here, she said, watching Biscuit chase a toy Emma had thrown. The apartment feels less empty. That's good. I'm terrified I'm going to mess it up, that I'll be a bad dog owner and he'll be unhappy, and it'll be my fault. You won't mess it up, and even if you do, which you won't, he'll forgive you. That's what dogs do. Is that what people do too? Daniel looked at her. The right people, yeah. Something passed between them in that moment. Something unspoken, but understood. Olivia looked away first, her cheeks slightly pink, and Daniel felt something shift in his chest that he wasn't quite ready to examine. They left in the late afternoon, Emma extracting a promise from Olivia that they could come back tomorrow to play with Biscuit again. In the car, Emma was uncharacteristically quiet, staring out the window with a thoughtful expression. What are you thinking about? Daniel asked. Do you like Olivia? Of course I like her. She's our friend. No, I mean, do you like her? The way the kids at school like each other? Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. That's a complicated question. It's not that complicated. You either do or you don't. Emma, it's okay if you do. I wouldn't mind. I think Olivia would be a good girlfriend for you. We're not talking about this. Why not? Because you're 4 and this is not a 4-year-old conversation. I'm almost 5. Still not old enough for this conversation. Emma was quiet for a minute. Then, for what it's worth, I think she likes you too. Daniel didn't respond, but he thought about it the rest of the drive home, and later that night after Emma was asleep, and the next morning when he woke up to a text from Olivia. Biscuit ate my shoe. I think I'm in over my head. Send help. Or coffee, or both. He smiled and texted back. Coffee and reinforcements coming soon. And he tried very hard not to think about what his 4-year-old daughter had said, or the way his heart had jumped when he saw Olivia's name on his phone screen, or the fact that maybe, just maybe, Emma wasn't wrong. The days got warmer, spring settling into early summer. Biscuit settled into his new home with the enthusiasm of someone who couldn't believe his luck. Olivia settled into being a dog owner with the determination of someone used to conquering new challenges. And Daniel settled into a routine that increasingly involved Olivia being part of his everyday life in ways that felt natural and comfortable and slightly terrifying. They fell into patterns without discussing them. Saturday mornings at the park with Emma and Biscuit. Wednesday night dinners that rotated between Daniel's apartment and Olivia's penthouse. Sunday afternoons at the bookstore or the museum or wherever Emma's current obsession took them. We've become predictable, Olivia said one Wednesday, sitting on Daniel's couch while Emma gave Biscuit a makeover with hair clips and ribbons. Is that boring? Predictable isn't boring. Predictable is comfortable. I spent 30 years avoiding comfortable. I thought it meant settling. What do you think now? I think maybe I was wrong about a lot of things. Emma declared Biscuit the prettiest dog in the world, despite Biscuit's clear discomfort with his new accessories, and demanded they take a photo. They crowded together on the couch, Emma in the middle holding a very patient Biscuit, Daniel and Olivia on either side, all of them smiling at the camera on Daniel's phone balanced on a stack of books. Later, after Emma and Biscuit had both fallen asleep, Emma in her bed, Biscuit on the rug next to her, Daniel and Olivia stayed up talking the way they always did now. Conversations that stretched late into the night and covered everything from childhood memories to philosophical questions about meaning and purpose. Can I ask you something personal? Olivia said. You can ask me anything. Do you think you'll ever get married again? The question caught Daniel off guard. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Liar, he smiled. Okay, fine. I've thought about it, but I don't know if I'm ready, if I'll ever be ready. Sarah was... He stopped, trying to find the right words. She was it for me, the love of my life. How do you move on from that? Maybe you don't move on. Maybe you move forward. There's a difference. Is there? I think so. Moving on means leaving the past behind. Moving forward means taking it with you, letting it be part of your story, but not the whole story. Daniel looked at her, at this woman who'd started as a stranger in a penthouse and somehow become one of the most important people in his life. When did you get so wise? I have a very smart friend who's teaching me things. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind they'd learned to appreciate. Then Olivia said, quiet and careful, I miss you when I'm not here. Daniel's heart did something complicated in his chest. Olivia, you don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know. She left shortly after, citing an early meeting, and Daniel sat alone in his quiet apartment trying to untangle the knot of feelings in his chest. He'd been so focused on helping Olivia remember how to live, on being her friend and showing her that connection mattered, that he hadn't noticed when his own feelings had shifted from friendship into something else. Or maybe he had noticed and just hadn't wanted to admit it. His phone buzzed. Text from Olivia. Thank you for tonight, for every night. You've changed my life in ways I'm still figuring out how to articulate. He stared at the message for a long time before responding. You've changed mine too. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, good. I'm glad we're in this together, whatever this is. Daniel set down his phone and walked to Emma's room, where she was sleeping with Mr. Hopscotch tucked under one arm and Biscuit snoring softly on the rug. He watched them for a minute, these two beings who depended on him, who trusted him to make the right choices for them. The question was, what was the right choice? He was still thinking about it the next morning, and the morning after that, and the morning after that. Olivia didn't bring it up again, but something had shifted between them. Their conversations felt weighted with things unsaid. Their silences felt charged with possibility. Emma, of course, noticed. Are you and Olivia going to kiss? She asked one morning over breakfast, apropos of nothing. Daniel choked on his coffee. What? Like in the movies. When people like each other, they kiss. Are you going to kiss Olivia? Emma, we've talked about this. Olivia and I are friends. Friends can kiss. Not those kinds of friends. Then what kind of friends are you? That, Daniel thought, was the question. The answer came on a Thursday night when Daniel wasn't expecting it. Emma was at a sleepover, her first real one, at Marcus's house, and Daniel had spent 20 minutes making sure Marcus's mom had his number and knew about Emma's peanut allergy and understood that Emma sometimes woke up scared and needed Mr. Hopscotch, who was packed in her overnight bag along with her nightlight and her favorite pajamas. She'll be fine, Marcus's mom had said, with the patience of someone who'd seen anxious parents before. I've got 3 kids. I know the drill. So Daniel had handed over his daughter and driven home to an apartment that felt too quiet without her. He'd planned to use the evening to catch up on paperwork and maybe fix the kitchen cabinet that had been sticking for weeks. Instead, he found himself staring at his phone, thumb hovering over Olivia's name. She answered on the second ring. Hey, is everything okay? Yeah, Emma's at a sleepover, first time. How are you handling it? Terribly. I've checked my phone 6 times in the last hour to see if Marcus's mom is called. Olivia laughed. Want some company? I could bring takeout. You don't have to. I want to. Chinese or Italian? Surprise me. She showed up 40 minutes later with Thai food and biscuit, who immediately started exploring Daniel's apartment like he'd never been there before, even though he absolutely had. I couldn't leave him alone, Olivia explained. He gets anxious when I'm gone too long. You've had him for 6 weeks, and we're very bonded now, aren't we, Biscuit? Biscuit ignored her, too busy sniffing the couch to care about bonding. They ate on the living room floor because Daniel's kitchen table was covered in paperwork he hadn't gotten around to organizing. Pad thai and spring rolls and some kind of curry that was spicier than either of them expected. Biscuit settled between them, hoping for dropped food, and the TV played something neither of them was watching. This is nice, Olivia said. Quiet. Too quiet for me. I'm not used to Emma being gone. What did you do before Emma, when you had free time? Daniel thought about it. I don't think I had free time. Sarah and I were always working or planning for the baby or fixing up the apartment. And then after she died, Emma was so young that free time wasn't really a thing. This is probably the first evening I've had completely to myself in 4 years. And you're spending it with me. Yeah. You could have done anything. Gone out, caught up on sleep, fixed that cabinet you keep complaining about. I wanted to see you. The words hung there between them, heavier than Daniel had meant them to be. Olivia set down her fork, and when she looked at him, something in her expression made his breath catch. Daniel, I know, we're friends. I'm not trying to make this complicated. What if I want it to be complicated? He stared at her. What? I miss you when I'm not here, Olivia said, the words coming out in a rush like she'd been holding them back too long. I wake up thinking about you. I make decisions at work and wonder what you'd say about them. I buy things and think Daniel would laugh at this or Emma would love this. You're in my head all the time, and I don't know when that happened. But it did, and I can't pretend anymore that we're just friends because I don't think about friends the way I think about you. Daniel's heart was doing something erratic in his chest. Olivia, and I know this is complicated. I know you lost someone you loved and maybe you're not ready and maybe you'll never be ready. And I know I'm a mess who's still figuring out how to be a person instead of a job title, but she stopped, took a breath. But I need you to know how I feel. Even if you don't feel the same way. I just need you to know. The silence that followed was so complete that Daniel could hear Biscuit's breathing and the traffic outside and his own pulse in his ears. I'm terrified, he said finally. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of what it means if I let myself feel what I'm feeling. What are you feeling? Daniel looked at her, really looked at her, at this woman who'd walked into his life through a leaking pipe and somehow became essential. Like maybe I'm ready to move forward instead of just moving on. Olivia's eyes got bright. Yeah? Yeah. So what do we do now? I have no idea. They sat there on his living room floor surrounded by takeout containers and a nosy dog, and then Olivia laughed, really laughed, and the tension broke. This is ridiculous, she said. We're adults. We should be better at this. I don't think anyone's better at this. I think everyone's just pretending. So we'll pretend too? Or we could just be honest. Take it slow. See what happens. I can do slow. Can you? Because you adopted a dog on impulse. That was different. Biscuit needed me. And I don't? Olivia looked at him, and her expression softened. You do. But you don't need someone to fix you. You're already whole. You just needed someone to remind you that it's okay to want more. Is it? Daniel asked. Okay to want more. I think so. I think Sarah would want that for you. Something in Daniel's chest unclenched at hearing her name. You never knew her. No. But I know you. And I know you loved her enough to honor her memory by living fully, not by holding yourself back. Daniel reached across the space between them and took Olivia's hand. Her fingers were cold, and he wrapped his around them, warming them up. It was such a small gesture, but it felt enormous. I'm still terrified, he said. Me too. Good. We can be terrified together. They finished dinner, still holding hands, talking about nothing important, and when Olivia left an hour later, Daniel walked her to the door, and they stood in the doorway for a long moment, neither quite sure how to end the evening. Can I kiss you? Olivia asked. Or is that too fast? I think we already broke the slow rule by having this conversation. Fair point. She kissed him. It was brief and careful, and nothing like the dramatic movie kisses Emma was always talking about. It was just two people figuring out how to be brave together, and when she pulled back, Daniel was smiling. What? Olivia asked. Nothing. That was just nice. Just nice. Really nice. Better. She left with Biscuit, and Daniel closed the door and leaned against it, feeling like a teenager who'd just survived his first date. His phone buzzed immediately. Text from Olivia. I'm not even in the elevator yet and I miss you already. This is a problem. He texted back, good problem or bad problem? The response came a minute later. The best kind. Daniel spent the rest of the evening in a daze, trying to process what had just happened. He'd kissed someone who wasn't Sarah. He'd admitted feelings he'd been avoiding. He'd taken a step towards something new and uncertain and absolutely terrifying. And it felt right. His phone rang at 10. Marcus's mom. Everything okay? Daniel answered, heart immediately in his throat. Everything's fine. Emma just wanted to say goodnight. Daddy! Emma's voice came through, excited and sleepy. We watched a movie about sharks and Marcus's dog can do tricks, and we had ice cream for dessert, and I'm not even tired. You sound exhausted, kiddo. I'm not. I could stay up all night. Well, you should probably sleep anyway. That's what sleepovers are for. Okay. Daddy? Yeah? I love you. Something melted in Daniel's chest. I love you too, Emma Bean. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Tell Olivia I said hi. I will. He hung up and stared at his phone. Tell Olivia I said hi. Like Emma had somehow known exactly what had happened tonight. Like she'd been waiting for it. The next morning, Daniel picked Emma up at 9. She came running out with her backpack half open and her hair sticking up in every direction, talking a mile a minute about everything they'd done. And Marcus has a hamster named Gerald. And Gerald runs on a wheel. And it's so loud but also cool. And can we get a hamster, Daddy? Please? We'll see. That's what you always say when the answer is no. That's not true. It is true. You said we'll see about the puppy and we didn't get one. You said we'll see about the trampoline and we didn't get one. You said, okay, point made, no hamster right now. Emma pouted but recovered quickly. Can we see Olivia today? Maybe later. She might be busy. She's never too busy for us. Daniel thought about last night, about the kiss and the conversation and the way his entire world had shifted. You're right. She's not. They went home and Emma immediately face-planted on the couch, the late night catching up to her despite her protests that she wasn't tired. Daniel covered her with a blanket and was making coffee when his phone rang. Hey, Olivia said. How's Emma? Crashed. The sleepover wore her out. Good. So you're free for coffee? Are you asking me on a date? Yes? Is that okay? Yeah, that's very okay. They met at the Bluebird Cafe, the same place they'd gone for their first not date months ago. It felt different now, charged with possibility instead of careful friendship. Olivia was already there when Daniel arrived, sitting at the same table by the window, and when she saw him, her face lit up in a way that made his chest tight. Hi, she said. Hi. They ordered coffee and sat across from each other, and for the first time since they'd met, the silence felt awkward. This is weird, Olivia said finally. Yeah. Are we going to be weird now? I hope not. Me too. She took a sip of her coffee. So, how do we do this? I don't know. I haven't dated anyone in almost 8 years, and the last person I dated became my wife, so I'm not sure I ever really learned how to just date. I've dated plenty and I'm still terrible at it, so we're both starting from scratch. Sounds about right? Olivia smiled. We'll figure it out. We're pretty good at figuring things out together. They spent an hour at the coffee shop, not talking about anything profound, just existing in each other's space in this new context. It was strange and comfortable and terrifying all at once, and when they left, Daniel walked her to her car and kissed her goodbye like it was something they'd been doing forever instead of less than 24 hours. I'm going to London next week, Olivia said. Business trip. I'll be gone for 5 days. Okay, I'm nervous about it. About being away from… She gestured vaguely. This, you, us, whatever we're calling it. We don't have to call it anything yet. But I want to. I want this to be real. It is real. You know what I mean. Daniel did know. He understood the difference between something casual and something that mattered. 5 days isn't that long. It feels long already. Then we'll make it work. People do long distance all the time. This isn't long distance, this is just me being gone for a few days. Same principle. Olivia kissed him again, and this time it lasted longer, and when she pulled away, she looked slightly dazed. I should go. I have a meeting in an hour. Go. I'll talk to you later. Promise? Promise. She drove away, and Daniel stood in the parking lot feeling like his life had become something he didn't quite recognize. In the best way. Emma woke up from her nap cranky and demanding snacks, and Daniel spent the rest of the afternoon managing her mood swings and pretending not to check his phone every 5 minutes. Olivia texted around dinner time. Made it through my meeting without thinking about you more than 5 or 6 times. I'm calling that a win. Daniel texted back. Only 5 or 6. I'm disappointed. The response was immediate. Fine. 12 times. Happy? Very. Emma noticed him smiling at his phone. Is that Olivia? Yeah. Are you boyfriend-girlfriend now? Daniel set down his phone. Where did you learn about boyfriend-girlfriend? School. Sophie has a boyfriend. They hold hands at recess. Emma, you're 4. Almost 5. And I'm just asking, are you? I don't know, maybe. We're figuring it out. Emma considered this. Okay. Can she come to my birthday party? Your birthday isn't for 7 months. I know, but I'm planning ahead. You always say planning ahead is smart. I do say that. So can she come? Yes, Emma. Olivia can come to your birthday party. Good. And Biscuit too. I want Biscuit there. We'll see. That means no. That means we'll see. The week passed in a strange rhythm of normal life mixed with constant texting. Olivia sent him pictures of London, Big Ben, Tower Bridge, her hotel room with a view of the Thames. Daniel sent her pictures of Emma's latest artwork, and Biscuit's continued campaign to destroy everything expensive in Olivia's apartment through strategic chewing. They talked on the phone every night after Emma went to bed. Long conversations about nothing and everything, the kind where you lose track of time and suddenly it's past midnight and you have to be up in 6 hours, but you don't want to hang up. Tell me something you've never told anyone, Olivia said on the 3rd night. That's a big ask. I know, but I want to know you, really know you. Daniel thought about it. Sometimes I'm angry at Sarah. For dying. For leaving me alone to figure all this out. For not being here to see Emma grow up. For making me be both parents when I barely know how to be one. He paused. I know that's not fair. She didn't choose to die, but sometimes I'm angry anyway. That's not wrong. Anger is part of grief. Is it? Or is it just me being selfish? It's human. You're allowed to feel everything, even the ugly parts. Your turn, Daniel said. Tell me something you've never told anyone. Olivia was quiet for so long he thought maybe the call had dropped. Then, I'm afraid I'm going to wake up one day and realize this isn't real. That you and Emma are just a dream I had because I was lonely, and I'm going to open my eyes in my empty apartment and nothing will have changed. This is real. How do you know? Because dreams don't feel like this. Dreams are perfect and easy. This is messy and complicated, and we're both terrified. That's how you know it's real. I like that answer. Good, because it's the only one I've got. They talked until Olivia's alarm went off for an early breakfast meeting, and Daniel hung up feeling more connected to her across an ocean than he'd felt to some people in the same room. By the time Olivia came home on Friday afternoon, Daniel had convinced himself he'd imagined how much he'd missed her. Then he saw her at the airport arrivals gate, tired and rumpled from the long flight, and realized he hadn't imagined anything. She dropped her bags and hugged him, and it felt like coming home. "Hi," she said into his shoulder. "Hi. I missed you. I missed you too." They stood there in the middle of the airport while people flowed around them, holding on to each other like they'd been separated for months instead of days. When they finally pulled apart, Olivia had tears in her eyes. "Sorry," she said, wiping at them. "I'm just really tired and really happy to see you." "Don't apologize. Come on, let's get you home." They drove back to the city, Olivia fighting sleep in the passenger seat, and Daniel filled her in on Emma's week, the incident with the glitter at daycare, the new obsession with penguins, the argument about whether carrots counted as a vegetable if you dipped them in ranch dressing. "How is she really?" Olivia asked. "Is she okay with us?" "What do you mean?" "With this, you and me, dating. I don't want to mess anything up for her. Emma loves you. You know that." "But is she okay with me being more than just her dad's friend?" Daniel thought about his daughter's constant questions, her careful observations, the way she'd been pushing them together from the beginning. "Yeah, I think she's more than okay with it." "Good. Because I care about her. A lot. And I need to know this isn't going to hurt her." "It won't. You can't promise that." "No, but I can promise I'll do everything I can to make sure it doesn't." Olivia fell asleep before they reached her building, her head against the window, looking more peaceful than Daniel had ever seen her. He woke her gently when they arrived, and she stumbled into her apartment still half asleep, Biscuit going crazy with joy at her return. "I should let you rest," Daniel said. "Stay, please, just for a little while." So he stayed. They curled up on her expensive couch with Biscuit between them, and Olivia fell asleep within minutes, her hand in Daniel's. He sat there watching her breathe, watching the city lights start to glow through her floor-to-ceiling windows, and thought about how much had changed since he'd knocked on her door to fix a leak. His phone buzzed. Text from Emma. "Is Olivia home yet? Can we see her tomorrow?" He texted back, "She's home. And yes, we can see her tomorrow." The response was immediate. "Yay!" Followed by approximately 17 heart emojis. Daniel smiled and set down his phone. Olivia stirred beside him, her eyes opening halfway. "You're still here," she murmured. "Where else would I be?" "I don't know, She yawned. "I'm glad you're here." "Me too." She fell back asleep, and Daniel stayed until his own exhaustion caught up with him. Then he carefully extracted himself, covered Olivia with a blanket, made sure Biscuit had food and water, and let himself out. The night air was cool as he walked to his truck, and Daniel felt something settle in his chest. Peace, maybe. Or contentment. Or just the simple knowledge that he'd made the right choice in letting himself feel again. Saturday morning came too early. Emma woke him at 6, demanding pancakes and information about when they were seeing Olivia. "After breakfast," Daniel said, measuring flour with eyes still half closed. "Can we bring her breakfast?" "She's probably still sleeping. She's tired from her trip." "We should still bring her something. Sleeping people need to eat when they wake up." Daniel couldn't argue with that logic. So after their own pancakes, they made extra and packed them up with syrup and some fruit Emma insisted on adding, because breakfast needs to be balanced. They showed up at Olivia's at 8:30, and Daniel worried it was too early until Olivia opened the door already dressed and looking significantly more awake than yesterday. "I heard the elevator," she said. "Come in." Emma launched herself at Olivia, and Biscuit launched himself at Emma, and for a moment it was just chaos and laughter and pancakes almost hitting the floor. "We brought breakfast," Emma announced once everyone had settled. "Daddy made them special." "They're just pancakes," Daniel said. "They're special because we made extra for Olivia." They ate in Olivia's kitchen, the first time Daniel had ever seen her eat something that didn't come from a restaurant or a takeout container, and Emma provided running commentary on everything that had happened while Olivia was gone. And Marcus learned a new word, but Daddy won't let me say it because it's inappropriate. And Sophie's cat had kittens, but we can't have one because Daddy says our apartment doesn't allow it. And I drew you a picture of London even though I've never been there, and I missed you a lot. Olivia's eyes got suspiciously bright. I missed you too, Emma. Good. Because we're friends, and friends miss each other. That's the rule. After breakfast, Emma wanted to play with Biscuit in the building's courtyard, so the three of them went downstairs and watched Emma throw a tennis ball approximately 3 feet, while Biscuit sprinted after it like it had been launched into next week. She has terrible aim, Olivia observed. She's 4. Almost 5. She reminds me constantly. They sat on a bench while Emma and Biscuit played, and Olivia leaned against Daniel's shoulder in a way that felt comfortable and new at the same time. I meant what I said last night, she said quietly, about being glad you were there. I know. I'm not good at this, at needing people, at letting people see me need them. You're better at it than you think. Only with you. Daniel kissed the top of her head. Then I guess I'm special. You are. They sat there while Emma tired herself out, and Biscuit decided the ball game was less interesting than sniffing every plant in the courtyard. The morning stretched into afternoon, and nobody seemed in a hurry to leave. Can we get lunch? Emma asked eventually. I'm starving. You just ate breakfast 2 hours ago. That was breakfast. This is lunch. They're different meals, Daddy. They ended up at a diner Emma loved because it had crayons and placemats you could draw on. She immediately started creating an elaborate scene involving dinosaurs and spaceships, narrating the entire story to anyone who would listen. Daniel and Olivia sat across from each other, knees touching under the table, having one of those conversations that was really dozens of small conversations woven together. Plans for the week, Olivia's next business trip, shorter this time, just overnight to Chicago. Emma's upcoming birthday that was still 7 months away but apparently required detailed planning. She wants Biscuit at her party, Daniel said. Of course she does. Biscuit is the life of every party. Your dog once ate half a pizza off the counter and then threw up on your bathroom rug. He's not exactly party material. That was one time, and he's learned from his mistakes. Has he? Probably not, but I love him anyway. Emma looked up from her drawing. Are you talking about Biscuit? Yes, Daniel said. I love Biscuit too, and I love Olivia. And I love you, Daddy. And I love these pancakes even though we had them for breakfast. You're having a grilled cheese, not pancakes. I love those too. I love everything today. Olivia caught Daniel's eye across the table, and they shared a smile. Emma went back to her drawing, and Daniel thought about how his daughter seemed to understand something fundamental about life that adults spent years forgetting, that love wasn't complicated or conditional or something you had to be careful with. It was just something you gave freely, to people and dogs and grilled cheese sandwiches, because the giving itself was the point. They spent the rest of the day together, the three of them moving through the city like a unit. The bookstore where Emma found a new dinosaur encyclopedia and made Olivia promise to read it with her. The park where they fed ducks that were probably already overfed but seemed happy about it anyway. The ice cream shop where Emma insisted on mint chocolate chip because it's green and green is the best color. By the time they made it back to Daniel's apartment, Emma was asleep in his arms, ice cream somehow smeared on her cheek despite Daniel's best supervision efforts. I should get her to bed, Daniel said quietly. Want help? You don't have to. I want to. So Olivia helped him get Emma into pajamas, a coordinated effort that involved removing shoes without waking her, navigating arms through sleeves, and locating Mr. Hopscotch, who had somehow ended up under the couch. They tucked her in together, and Emma mumbled something about penguins before rolling over and going completely still. In the hallway, Olivia took Daniel's hand. Thank you for today. Thank you for spending it with us. I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be. Really? Because you could probably be anywhere. Paris, Tokyo, some exclusive restaurant with food I can't pronounce. But you're here. So this is where I want to be. Daniel pulled her close, and they stood in his narrow hallway kissing like teenagers, trying to be quiet and failing, until Emma called out, Daddy! And they jumped apart like they'd been caught doing something wrong. Yeah, kiddo? Can you leave the door open more? It's too dark. Sure thing. He adjusted the door, and when he came back, Olivia was smiling. What? He asked. Nothing. This is just really nice, being part of your life, part of this. You are part of this. You have been for a while now. I know, but it feels different saying it out loud. They moved to the living room, keeping their voices low, and talked until midnight about everything and nothing. About Olivia's work and Daniel's job and Emma's latest obsessions. About the future in vague, careful terms. The way people do when they're not quite ready to make promises, but want to acknowledge that promises might eventually happen. I should go, Olivia said finally. Biscuit's probably destroyed something expensive by now. Probably. At the door, she turned back. Daniel? Yeah? I'm really happy. I didn't think I knew what that felt like anymore, but I do. And it's because of you and Emma. We're pretty happy too. Good. She kissed him one more time. See you tomorrow? You're going to get sick of us. Impossible. She left and Daniel locked the door behind her, then stood there for a minute feeling like his life had transformed into something he didn't recognize but absolutely wanted to keep. The weeks blurred into months. Summer settled in properly. Hot days and long evenings. Emma's daycare letting out early for summer hours. Daniel's work picking up as more people decided this was the perfect time to renovate their kitchens or fix their air conditioning. Olivia integrated into their lives so smoothly, it was like she'd always been there. She showed up at Emma's daycare events and parent-teacher conferences, not because she had to, but because Emma had drawn her a special invitation, and Olivia took Emma's invitations very seriously. She learned to braid hair after Emma declared that Daddy's braids were functional but not fancy. She bought a shelf for her apartment specifically for the artwork Emma kept making her. I'm running out of wall space, she told Daniel one evening while Emma was in the bath singing a song she'd made up about mermaids. You have like 3,000 square feet. How are you out of wall space? Emma is very prolific. She gets it from her mother. Sarah was always making things too. It had gotten easier talking about Sarah. Olivia never flinched when he mentioned her, never treated it like a betrayal or a comparison. She understood that Sarah was part of Daniel's story and Emma's story, and that loving someone new didn't erase loving someone you'd lost. Tell me about her, Olivia said. About Sarah. So Daniel did. He told her about how Sarah had laughed at her own jokes before she finished telling them, how she'd danced to music only she could hear while cooking dinner, how she'd wanted to paint every room in their apartment a different color until Daniel convinced her that Rainbow House was maybe too ambitious. She sounds wonderful, Olivia said. She was. She was also stubborn and terrible at parallel parking and could not keep a plant alive to save her life. But yeah, she was wonderful. Do you think she'd like me? The question surprised him. Yeah, I think she'd like you a lot. She'd probably give you a hard time about your fancy apartment and your expensive coffee, but she'd like you. Emma's told me stories about her, about the songs she used to sing and the way she did the voices when she read books. Emma doesn't really remember her, not clearly. She was so young. Most of what she knows is from stories I've told her and the few videos we have. That must be hard, for both of you. Yeah, but we're doing okay. Better than okay, actually. Emma emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, hair dripping everywhere. Olivia, can you do my hair fancy for tomorrow? We're taking pictures at school. Of course, come here. Daniel watched Olivia carefully detangle Emma's hair and braid it into something that actually looked fancy, complete with ribbons Emma had dug out of her craft box. He watched the way Emma leaned into Olivia's hands, completely trusting, and the way Olivia's face softened with concentration and affection. This was his family now, not replacing the family he'd had, but building something new alongside those memories. And it was good. It was really, really good. That night, after Emma was asleep and Olivia was getting ready to leave, Daniel stopped her at the door. Move in with us, he said. Olivia froze. What? Move in. Bring Biscuit. We'll figure out the space. Emma can share her room with Mr. Hopscotch and her dinosaurs. We'll use the living room better. We'll make it work. Daniel, your apartment is barely big enough for 2 people, so we'll get a bigger place. Together. Somewhere Emma can have her own room and there's space for Biscuit and a real kitchen where we can all cook together. Somewhere that's ours. Are you serious? Completely. Olivia stared at him. That's a big step. I know. We've only been officially together for a few months. I know that too, but I also know that I love you, and Emma loves you, and you love us, and we spend most of our time together anyway, so why not make it official? You love me? Daniel realized he'd just said that out loud, casually, like it wasn't a massive declaration. Yeah, I do. Is that okay? Olivia started crying, actual tears running down her face, and Daniel panicked. If it's too fast, we don't have to. I love you too, she said. I've loved you for weeks and I was too scared to say it. So is that a yes? To moving in? Can I think about it? Of course. Take your time. She kissed him, tears still on her face, and left in a daze. Daniel stood in his doorway watching her walk to the elevator, wondering if he'd just made a huge mistake or the best decision of his life. His phone buzzed 5 minutes later. Yes. That's it? Just yes? The response came immediately. Yes to moving in. Yes to building something together. Yes to all of it. When do we start looking for places? Daniel smiled at his phone like an idiot. Tomorrow? Tomorrow. I love you. I love you too. He went to bed that night feeling like his entire life had realigned into something that finally made sense. In the morning, Emma would wake up and ask for breakfast and probably have opinions about what color their new apartment should be. Olivia would come over with coffee and her laptop and they'd start looking at listings. Biscuit would probably destroy something in the process. And it would be chaotic and imperfect and absolutely right. Finding an apartment turned out to be harder than Daniel expected. Everything was too small or too expensive or in neighborhoods that were too far from Emma's school. Olivia wanted to just buy something outright, but Daniel refused. I'm not living in a place I can't contribute to, he said after she showed him a listing for a 4-bedroom brownstone that cost more than he'd make in 10 years. That's ridiculous. I have the money. Why not use it? Because this needs to be ours, not yours that I'm living in. They were sitting in a coffee shop, Emma at daycare, both of them scrolling through rental listings on their phones. Olivia set hers down and looked at him. Your pride is showing, she said. Maybe, but this matters to me. Okay, then we find something we can both afford. That's going to seriously limit our options. I don't care about options. I care about you. They compromised on a 3-bedroom in a neighborhood halfway between Daniel's work routes and Emma's school. It wasn't fancy. The kitchen was dated, the bathroom tile was from the 70s, and there was a weird closet in the hallway that didn't seem to have a purpose, but it had good light and a small balcony and a bedroom that Emma immediately claimed as hers when they went to see it. This is perfect, Emma announced, spinning in circles in the empty room. I can put my bed here, and my dinosaurs here, and my bookshelf here, and Mr. Hopscotch gets the corner by the window because he likes to look outside. Mr. Hopscotch is a stuffed bunny, Daniel said. He doesn't have preferences. Yes, he does. You just don't listen to him. Olivia walked through the apartment slowly, trailing her fingers along the walls, and Daniel watched her take in each room like she was memorizing it. What do you think? He asked. I think it's perfect. It needs work. The kitchen's a disaster, and that bathroom. I don't care. It's ours. That makes it perfect. They signed the lease the next day. Olivia tried to pay the deposit and first month's rent, but Daniel insisted on splitting everything 50-50, which led to their first real argument. This is stupid, Olivia said, standing in the leasing office with her checkbook out. I have the money right here. Just let me pay it. We're splitting it. Why? What difference does it make? Because I need to know I'm contributing, that I'm not just the guy who showed up in your life and started taking from you. Olivia's expression softened. You've never taken anything from me. You've given me everything that matters. Then let me do this my way. She sighed, but put away her checkbook. They each wrote a check for half, and the leasing agent looked confused but processed them anyway. In the parking lot, Olivia turned to Daniel. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to push. I know, and I'm sorry for being stubborn. You're always stubborn. Yeah, well, you're always trying to solve problems with money. Because money solves problems. Not all of them. They stood there, and then Olivia started laughing. We just had our first fight as a couple who's moving in together. Is that a milestone? I think so. Does this mean we have to make up now? Probably. She kissed him in the parking lot, and Daniel thought about how strange it was that arguing with someone could somehow make you feel closer to them instead of further apart. Moving day was chaos. Emma was simultaneously excited and anxious, running between boxes and asking questions nobody could answer. Where would her nightlight go? What if Biscuit didn't like the new apartment? What if her dinosaurs got lonely during the move? They're plastic, kiddo, Daniel said, taping up another box. They'll be fine. You don't know that. They have feelings. Olivia had hired movers for her stuff, which made Daniel feel weird until she pointed out that she owned furniture that required professional handling, and he owned a couch with a stain and a kitchen table held together by hope. Fair point, he admitted. The movers arrived at 8, and by noon, both apartments were empty, and the new place was full of boxes and furniture that didn't quite fit. Emma stood in the middle of the living room looking overwhelmed. It's too much stuff, she said. We'll make it work, Olivia said, but even she looked doubtful. They spent the afternoon unpacking essentials, clothes, dishes, Emma's bedding, and dinosaurs in Mr. Hopscotch. The movers had put Olivia's expensive couch in the living room, and it looked absurd next to Daniel's beat-up chair, but nobody mentioned it. By evening, Emma's room was mostly set up. She'd insisted on arranging her dinosaurs herself, and the result was a timeline that made sense only to her, but which she defended passionately. The Triassic ones go here because they're shy. The Cretaceous ones go here because they're brave. It's organized by personality, Daddy, not time. My mistake. They ordered pizza for dinner because nobody had the energy to cook, and they ate sitting on the floor of the living room because the kitchen table was buried under boxes they hadn't gotten to yet. This is nice, Emma said through a mouthful of cheese. We're like a real family now. Daniel and Olivia looked at each other. They'd been avoiding that word, dancing around it, but Emma had just dropped it like it was obvious. We were a real family before, Daniel said carefully. I know, but now we're a bigger family, with Olivia and Biscuit. That's even better. Yeah, Olivia said quietly. It really is. After Emma went to bed, her first night in her new room, nightlight plugged in, Mr. Hopscotch tucked under her arm, Biscuit sleeping on a blanket on the floor. Daniel and Olivia collapsed on the expensive couch that still looked out of place. We did it, Olivia said. We did. I can't believe we actually did it. Having regrets already? No, just processing. This morning I woke up in my penthouse and now I'm here. With you. With Emma. Emma. This is my life now. Is that okay? It's more than okay. It's everything I didn't know I needed. They fell asleep on the couch, too tired to make it to the bedroom, and woke up at 2 a.m. to Emma standing in front of them, holding Mr. Hopscotch. I can't sleep, she said. It's too quiet. Too quiet? Daniel sat up, disoriented. What do you mean? The sounds are wrong. The walls make different noises. The heater sounds weird. Everything's wrong. Olivia rubbed her eyes. Do you want to sleep with us tonight? Just for tonight? Emma nodded, and they all migrated to the bedroom, the one room that was fully unpacked, and climbed into bed together. Emma in the middle, Mr. Hopscotch clutched tight, Biscuit following them, and settling at the foot of the bed, even though he wasn't technically allowed on furniture. This is better, Emma said. This is right. Daniel looked over her head at Olivia, who was already falling back asleep, and thought about how this wasn't how he'd imagined his life going, but it was pretty damn good anyway. The next few weeks were an adjustment, learning where everything was in the new kitchen, figuring out the shower's temperamental hot water, establishing new routines. Emma adapted faster than either adult, declaring on day 3 that this was the best apartment ever and they should never move again. We just moved, Daniel said. We're not moving again. Good, because I like it here. What surprised Daniel most was how normal it felt. He'd expected moving in together to be this huge, dramatic thing, but mostly it was just life with more people in it. Olivia learned his morning routine and started making coffee the way he liked it. He learned that she couldn't function before 7 a.m. and needed at least 20 minutes of silence before conversation was possible. Emma learned that Olivia was terrible at breakfast, but excellent at bedtime stories, and she adjusted her demands accordingly. They had their first real fight 3 weeks in. Not about money this time, but about parenting. Emma had thrown a massive tantrum about bedtime, the kind that involved screaming and crying and dramatic declarations that she hated everything, and Daniel had sent her to her room to calm down. Olivia had wanted to go comfort her immediately. She needs space, Daniel said. She's upset. She needs support. She's manipulating. This is what she does when she doesn't get her way. She's 4 years old. She's not manipulating anyone. Almost 5. And yes, she is. I've been doing this for 4 years, Olivia. I know my daughter. I'm not saying you don't. I'm saying maybe she needs... Needs what? Someone to swoop in and rescue her every time she has feelings? That's not how this works. Olivia's face went tight. I was trying to help. I don't need your help. I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Olivia grabbed her keys and left, not slamming the door but closing it with a quiet click that was somehow worse. Daniel stood in the living room feeling like an idiot. He checked on Emma, who had cried herself out and was now reading a book to Mr. Hopscotch like nothing had happened. Then he sat on the couch and waited for Olivia to come back. She returned an hour later with Biscuit, who she'd apparently gone to walk even though he'd been walked 2 hours earlier. I'm sorry, they both said at the same time. Daniel gestured for her to go first. I'm sorry, Olivia said again. You're right. You know Emma better than anyone. I shouldn't have questioned you. No, you were right too. Sometimes I forget that you care about her as much as I do, that you're not just the girlfriend. You're part of this, part of raising her, and that means you get to have opinions about parenting decisions. But she's your daughter. She's becoming our daughter. That's what happens when you move in with someone who has a kid. You're not just dating me. You're part of her life too, and I need to remember that. Olivia sat down next to him. This is harder than I thought it would be. What is? Figuring out where I fit. I'm not her mom, but I'm more than just daddy's girlfriend. I don't know what the boundaries are. Neither do I. We're making this up as we go. That's terrifying. Yeah, but we'll figure it out. They sat there, and eventually Emma emerged from her room, puffy-eyed and subdued. I'm sorry I yelled, she said. I was just really tired and everything felt too big. I know, kiddo. Thank you for apologizing. Emma climbed into Olivia's lap. Are you mad at me? No, sweetie. I'm not mad. Good. Because I love you, and I don't want you to be mad. Olivia's eyes got bright. I love you too, Emma. It was the first time Olivia had said it out loud to her, and Emma accepted it with the easy grace of a child who'd never doubted it was true. Can I have ice cream? Emma asked. Nice try, Daniel said, but no. What about a cookie? Also no. What about a hug? That you can have. They all hugged, cramped together on the couch, and Daniel thought about how love wasn't always dramatic declarations and perfect moments. Sometimes it was just fighting and apologizing and figuring out how to do better next time. Fall arrived, bringing shorter days and cooler weather. Emma started pre-K, which meant new routines and new anxieties. She was nervous about the bigger kids and the homework and whether anyone would want to be her friend. What if nobody likes me? She asked the night before her first day. Everyone's going to like you, Olivia said. You're smart and funny, and you know everything about dinosaurs. What's not to like? Sophie said pre-K is scary. Sophie's in pre-K? No, Sophie's still in daycare. But her brother is in pre-K, and he said it's scary. Well, Sophie's brother probably just said that to make it seem more exciting, Daniel said. Pre-K is just like daycare, but with more learning and less nap time. I don't like naps anyway. Then you'll love it. The first day went fine. Emma came home with stories about a girl named Maya who had a purple backpack and a boy named James who could already read chapter books, and a teacher named Miss Rodriguez who had a fish tank in the classroom. I'm going to marry James when I grow up, Emma announced. You're 4, Daniel said. Almost 5, and James is very smart. We're going to have a wedding with cake and dinosaurs. That sounds lovely, Olivia said, managing to keep a straight face. Have you told James about this plan? Not yet. I'm waiting for the right moment. The right moment apparently never came, because by the end of the week, Emma had decided James was too serious, and she was now going to marry Maya instead because Maya shared her snacks and complimented Emma's dinosaur lunchbox. That's very open-minded of you, Daniel said. What's open-minded mean? It means you're flexible about your plans. Oh, yeah, I'm very flexible. I do yoga now. Miss Rodriguez taught us. Life developed its own rhythm. Mornings were chaotic, getting Emma ready, feeding Biscuit, making sure everyone had what they needed for the day. Daniel still worked his handyman jobs, though he'd started being more selective about which ones he took. Olivia had cut back her hours more, delegating even more to her team, showing up at home by 6 most nights instead of 8 or 9. They had dinner together almost every evening. Real dinners, at the kitchen table they'd finally unearthed from the boxes, with Emma talking nonstop and Biscuit begging for scraps and the comfortable chaos of people who'd learned how to exist in each other's space. "I have a work trip coming up," Olivia said one night after Emma had gone to bed. "Singapore. It's a big deal. New acquisition we're finalizing." "How long?" "A week, maybe 10 days if the negotiations drag." Daniel felt something twist in his chest. They'd been living together for 2 months, and Olivia hadn't traveled since before they moved in. He'd gotten used to her being there every night. "That's a long time," he said. "I know. I'm sorry." "Don't apologize, it's your job. When do you leave?" "Next Wednesday." That gave them 5 days. Daniel tried not to think about how much he was going to miss her, but Emma had no such restraint. "Why do you have to go?" Emma asked when they told her. "It's for work," Olivia said. "Sometimes my job means I have to travel to other countries." "But you just moved in. You're supposed to stay here now." "I am staying here. This is my home. I'm just going on a trip and then I'll come back." "What if you don't come back? What if you decide you like Singapore better than us?" Olivia pulled Emma into her lap. "There is absolutely zero chance of that happening. You know why?" "Why?" "Because you and your dad are my favorite people in the entire world. Singapore is just a place. You're home." Emma seemed satisfied with that answer, but she spent the next 5 days being extra clingy with Olivia, as if physical proximity would somehow prevent her from leaving. The night before Olivia's flight, they stayed up late packing. Emma had made her a care package: drawings, a plastic dinosaur for luck, and a list of rules for Singapore that included "don't forget about us" and "bring back something cool." "I'll follow all the rules," Olivia promised. "Even the one about calling every day?" "Especially that one." Daniel helped her finish packing, and then they went to bed, neither of them sleeping much. At 4 a.m., Olivia's alarm went off, and she got dressed in the dark while Daniel made coffee. "I'm going to miss you," she said at the door. "We'll miss you too. Take care of Emma, and yourself, and Biscuit." "I always do." "I know, She stopped. "I love you." "I love you too. Go. You're going to miss your flight." She kissed him and left, and Daniel stood in the doorway until her car was out of sight. Then he went back to bed for 2 more hours before Emma woke up, asking where Olivia was. "Singapore, remember?" "Oh yeah. When's she coming back?" 10 days. Emma's face fell. "That's forever." "It'll go faster than you think." It didn't. The first day felt like 3. Emma was cranky and out of sorts, and Daniel felt off balance without Olivia there. They'd gotten so used to being 3 that being 2 felt wrong. Olivia called that night, her face pixelated on the video chat, looking exhausted. "Hi," she said. "I miss you both so much already." "We miss you too," Emma said, pressed against the phone screen like she could climb through it. "Singapore looks weird. It's just my hotel room. The city is actually beautiful. But not as beautiful as us, right?" "Not even close." They talked for 20 minutes before Olivia had to go to a dinner meeting. Emma went to bed unhappy, and Daniel spent the evening trying to distract himself with household tasks that didn't need doing. The week dragged. Olivia called every night, but the time difference meant they were always exhausted, either her waking up or him staying up late. Emma started acting out at school, and Daniel got a call from Ms. Rodriguez about behavioral concerns. "She's been pushing other kids and refusing to participate in activities," Ms. Rodriguez said. "Is everything okay at home?" "We're fine. Olivia's just traveling for work." Emma's adjusting. "Olivia is my partner. She lives with us." Emma's attached to her. "I see. Well, maybe talk to Emma about appropriate ways to express her feelings. This isn't like her." Daniel talked to Emma that night, and she burst into tears. "I just miss Olivia so much and nobody understands. James said I was weird for being sad about a grown-up being gone, and I pushed him because he was being mean." "Emma, we don't push people, even when they're being mean. But he hurt my feelings." "I know, but you hurt his body. That's worse." "Is Olivia ever coming home?" "Yes, 3 more days." "That's still forever." Daniel felt the same way, but he tried to be the strong one. He kept them busy. Park visits, movie nights, baking cookies that turned out terrible, but which they ate anyway. He let Emma sleep in his bed when she couldn't settle in her own. He called Olivia more than they'd planned, just to hear her voice. "I'm sorry I'm gone so long," Olivia said on day 8. "The negotiations are taking longer than expected." It's not your fault. Emma sounds miserable. She'll be okay. We both will. I'll be home in 2 days, I promise. Those 2 days felt like a month. But finally, Olivia's flight landed. Daniel and Emma picked her up at the airport, and Emma spotted her first, screaming, "Olivia!" and running so fast Daniel barely caught her before she collided with someone's luggage. Olivia dropped her bags and scooped Emma up, holding her tight, and Daniel watched them and felt something settle in his chest that had been unsettled for 10 days. "I missed you so much," Emma said into Olivia's shoulder. "I missed you too, baby. Both of you." In the car, Emma didn't let go of Olivia's hand, and Olivia didn't let go of hers. They talked non-stop about Singapore, the food, the buildings, the shopping, the meetings that went well and the ones that didn't. "Did you bring me something cool?" Emma asked. "I brought you several cool things. They're in my suitcase. Can I see them when we get home?" "Absolutely." At home, Emma tore through Olivia's suitcase finding gifts, a stuffed lion, a puzzle of the Singapore skyline, a book about tropical animals. She was thrilled with all of it, but what she held on to was a simple keychain with a little merlion figure. "What's this?" Emma asked. "It's called a merlion. Half lion, half fish. I saw one at the airport and thought of you because it's unique and special, like you." "Can I put it on my backpack?" "That's what it's for." Emma ran off to attach it immediately, leaving Daniel and Olivia alone for the first time in 10 days. "Hi," Olivia said. "Hi. I really missed you." "I really missed you too." They kissed, and it felt like coming up for air after being underwater too long. "That trip was too long," Olivia said. "Way too long." "Yeah. I don't want to do that again. Be away from you both for that long. Sometimes it's necessary, though. For work? Maybe. But I'm going to try to avoid it, because this—" She gestured around the apartment toward Emma's room where she was singing to herself. "This is what matters. Not some deal in Singapore. This." Daniel pulled her close. "Welcome home." "It's good to be home." That night, the three of them fell asleep in the living room watching a movie Emma picked, curled up together on the couch, biscuit at their feet. And Daniel thought about how family wasn't always what you planned. Sometimes it was what you built, piece by piece, through leaks and coffee dates and tantrums and trips that felt too long. Sometimes it was exactly this. Winter came early that year, bringing snow in November and temperatures that made Emma declare the world was too freezing to exist in. Daniel bundled her up anyway, layers upon layers until she looked like a small, puffy marshmallow, and walked her to school while she complained the entire way. "My face hurts," she said. "That's because it's cold outside." "Why do we live somewhere cold?" "Because this is where we are. We should move somewhere warm, like where dinosaurs lived." "Dinosaurs lived everywhere, kiddo, even cold places. But the warm ones were happier." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. Cold makes everyone grumpy." She had a point. The cold did make everyone grumpy. Daniel's truck took longer to start in the mornings. His hands ached when he worked outside. And even Biscuit seemed reluctant to go out for walks, preferring to stay curled up on the couch near the radiator. But the cold also brought other things. Emma's 5th birthday, which she'd been planning with increasing specificity since September. The holidays, which meant time off work, and lazy mornings with Olivia. And a conversation Daniel had been avoiding but knew needed to happen. They were in the kitchen one Saturday morning, Olivia making coffee while Daniel attempted pancakes. Emma was still asleep, and the apartment was quiet except for the radiator's periodic clanking and Biscuit snoring from the living room. "Can I ask you something?" Daniel said. "Always." "Do you ever regret it? Giving up your old life? The penthouse, the 90-hour weeks? All of it?" Olivia looked at him over her coffee mug. "Where's this coming from?" "I don't know. I was just thinking about how much you changed, how much you gave up, and I want to make sure you're actually happy. Not just settling because it's easier than going back." "Daniel, I didn't give anything up. I gained everything." "But you had so much before. Success, money, respect." "I had nothing before. Nothing that mattered." She set down her mug. "You want to know what my life was like? I'd wake up at 4 in the morning already anxious. I'd work until 10, 11 at night. I'd eat meals at my desk if I remembered to eat at all. I had a personal assistant who knew more about my schedule than I did. I had business associates and networking contacts and people who smiled at me because I was profitable. But I didn't have friends. I didn't have family. I didn't have anyone who gave a damn if I was happy or just pretending to be. She paused, and Daniel turned off the stove to give her his full attention. Then you knocked on my door, she continued, and you asked if I was okay. And nobody had asked me that in years. Nobody had seen me, really seen me, in so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like. You gave me that. You and Emma. You gave me a reason to wake up in the morning that wasn't dread. You gave me something to care about besides quarterly earnings and market projections. So no, I don't regret anything. This is the life I should have been living all along. Daniel crossed the kitchen and pulled her into a hug. I just want to make sure you're happy. I'm happier than I've ever been. Even when Emma's throwing tantrums and Biscuit's destroying my shoes and you're being stubborn about splitting the grocery bill, especially then, actually. We really should just get a joint account. We really should, but I like watching you be stubborn about it. Emma wandered in, rubbing her eyes. Why are you guys hugging without me? Sorry, Olivia said. Get over here. Emma inserted herself between them, and they stood there in the kitchen, the pancakes getting cold on the stove, and Daniel thought about how happiness wasn't a destination. It was this. These small moments that added up to something bigger than yourself. Emma's birthday party was the following weekend. She'd insisted on a dinosaur theme, obviously, and had very specific requirements about decorations, cake flavors, and which friends from school were invited. Maya has to sit next to me, Emma said, and James can come, but he has to sit far away because we're not friends anymore. What happened with James? Olivia asked. He said velociraptors were better than T-Rexes, and he's clearly wrong. I can't be friends with someone who's that wrong about dinosaurs. That seems harsh, Daniel said. It's about principles, Daddy. The party was held at their apartment, which immediately proved too small for 15 5-year-olds hopped up on cake and excitement. Daniel spent most of the afternoon refereeing disputes over toys and preventing Biscuit from being overwhelmed by small hands trying to pet him all at once. This is chaos, Olivia said, appearing next to him with frosting in her hair. How did you get frosting in your hair? I don't want to talk about it. How do parents do this regularly? Practice and patience. I have neither. But she was smiling, and when Emma opened her presents, books and toys and a stuffed triceratops from Maya, that Emma declared her new favorite thing ever, Olivia's face was soft with affection. After the party, after the last parent picked up their exhausted child, and Daniel swept up approximately 7 pounds of cake crumbs, they collapsed on the couch while Emma played with her new toys in her room. I can't believe she's 5, Daniel said. I can't believe we survived that party. Next year we're doing something smaller. Next year we're hiring professionals. Daniel laughed. Deal. They sat in comfortable silence, and then Olivia said, I've been thinking about something. Yeah? I want to adopt Emma, legally, if that's something you'd be okay with. Daniel turned to look at her. What? I know she's your daughter. I know Sarah was her mother, and nobody can replace that. But I love her like she's mine, and I want it to be official. I want her to know that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm choosing to be her parent just as much as you are. Olivia, you don't have to answer now. Just think about it. Talk to Emma, see how she feels. But I wanted you to know that's what I want. Not to replace Sarah, just to be there, officially, permanently. Daniel's throat was tight. You already are, officially and permanently. But legally, we'll do it, however you want, whatever paperwork you need. Yes. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really, you've been her parent for months now. Might as well make it legal. They told Emma the next day. She was eating cereal and explaining to Mr. Hopscotch why Cheerios were superior to Fruit Loops when Daniel and Olivia sat down at the table with her. We want to talk to you about something, Daniel said. Emma looked up, suspicious. Am I in trouble? No, nothing like that. Olivia has something she wants to ask you. Olivia took a breath. You know how I live here with you and your dad? And how we're a family? Yeah. Well, I was wondering if maybe you'd want me to be your parent officially, like legally, so that on paper you'd have 2 parents instead of just 1. Emma set down her spoon. Would you be my mom? I'd be your parent. Your dad will always be your dad, and Sarah will always be your mom, even though she's not here. But I'd be your other parent, if you want that. Emma thought about this with the seriousness of someone making a life-altering decision. Would I have to call you Mom? You can call me whatever you want. Olivia is fine, Mom is fine, Parent is fine, whatever feels right to you. What if I want to call you Olivia sometimes and Mom sometimes? That's perfect. And I'd still have my mom, my real mom, Sarah? Always. Nobody can take that away from you. Emma looked at Daniel. What do you think, Daddy? I think it's up to you, kiddo, but I think it would be pretty great. Okay, Emma said. Let's do it. Really? Olivia's voice cracked. Yeah, you're already my parent anyway. We should make it official. That's what you said, right? Right. Emma went back to her cereal like she hadn't just agreed to something monumental. Daniel and Olivia looked at each other, and then Olivia started crying, actual tears streaming down her face, and Emma looked alarmed. Why are you crying? Did I say the wrong thing? No, baby, you said exactly the right thing. I'm just happy. Oh, okay. Can I have more cereal? The adoption process took months. Paperwork and lawyers and court dates that felt endless. But finally, on a cold morning in February, they stood in a courthouse with Emma wearing her fanciest dress and holding Mr. Hopscotch for moral support, and a judge signed papers that made Olivia officially Emma's parent. Congratulations, the judge said. You're a family now. We were already a family, Emma corrected. Now we're just a legal family. The judge smiled. You're absolutely right. My apologies. They celebrated with ice cream even though it was freezing outside, and Emma declared it the best day ever, except for her birthday and the day they got biscuit. Those are tied for first, she explained. This is second, but it's a very close second. That night, after Emma was asleep, Daniel and Olivia sat in their bedroom, the room that had taken weeks to feel like theirs, but now was completely, undeniably theirs. Thank you, Olivia said, for letting me do that. Thank you for wanting to. I can't believe I'm a parent now, legally. That's wild. You've been a parent for a while. I know, but now it's real. If something happened to you, Emma would stay with me. I'd be her guardian. That's terrifying and amazing, and I don't know how you've been doing this alone for so long. I haven't been alone. Not for a while now. Olivia leaned her head on his shoulder. Do you think Sarah would be okay with this? With me? Daniel thought about his wife. About the woman who'd wanted 3 kids and a porch and a life full of noise and love. Yeah, I think she'd be really happy that Emma has someone else who loves her this much. That we both do. I wish I could have met her. Me too. They sat there in the quiet, and Daniel felt something settle in his chest that had been restless for years. He'd spent so long holding on to Sarah's memory, keeping it safe, that he'd forgotten how to make room for anything else. But loving Olivia didn't erase Sarah. It just meant his heart had expanded to hold both, the past and the present, the love he'd lost and the love he'd found. Emma started calling Olivia Mom sometimes, usually when she was tired or excited or needed something immediately. Mom, can you help me? Mom, where's my backpack? Mom, Biscuit ate my homework. Each time, Olivia would get this look on her face. Surprise and joy, and something that looked like being found after a long time of being lost. Spring came, bringing warmer weather and Emma's increasing obsession with planting a garden. We have a balcony, she kept saying. We could grow things. Like what? Daniel asked. I don't know. Vegetables, flowers, dinosaurs. We can't grow dinosaurs, kiddo. Why not? If we plant dinosaur bones. That's not how it works. But they ended up buying seeds and pots anyway, and Emma's balcony garden became her new project. She planted tomatoes and basil and flowers whose names Daniel couldn't remember, and she checked on them approximately 70 times a day to see if anything had sprouted yet. Plants take time, Olivia explained. You have to be patient. I'm not good at patient. I've noticed. But eventually, tiny green shoots appeared, and Emma lost her mind with excitement. They're alive! The plants are alive! I'm a farmer now! You're not a farmer, Daniel said. You're a gardener. What's the difference? Farmers have big fields, gardeners have small gardens. Then I'm a balcony gardener. That's very specific and important. The plants grew slowly but steadily, and Emma tended them with the kind of dedication she usually reserved for her dinosaur collection. She watered them on schedule, talked to them about her day, and glared at any bug that dared land on them. Do you think the plants can hear me? She asked Olivia one afternoon. I don't know, maybe. I think they can. I think they grow better when I talk to them. You might be right. I'm right about a lot of things. Everyone just doesn't realize it yet. By summer, the balcony garden was thriving. The tomatoes were coming in, the basil was bushy and fragrant, and the flowers were bright spots of color against the gray building. Emma picked their first tomato with the solemnity of someone harvesting their first crop after a difficult winter. We should eat it at dinner, she said, as a family, because we grew it together. They did. It was the smallest tomato Daniel had ever seen, barely enough for each of them to have one bite, but Emma insisted on cutting it carefully and dividing it equally. This is the best tomato ever, Emma declared. It's just a tomato, Daniel said. No, it's our tomato. That makes it special. She was right. It was special. Not because it tasted better than store-bought tomatoes, but because Emma had grown it herself. With patience she'd learned and care she'd practiced, and it represented something bigger than just food. That night, after Emma was asleep, Olivia and Daniel sat on the balcony among Emma's plants, drinking wine and talking about nothing important. I can't believe it's been almost a year, Olivia said, since we moved in together. Feels longer. In a good way or a bad way? Good way. Like we've been doing this forever. I was thinking, Olivia said carefully, about maybe making another change. What kind of change? I want to quit. My job. Not completely. I'd stay on the board, help with major decisions, but step down as CEO. Let someone else run the day-to-day operations. Daniel stared at her. You're serious. I'm serious. I've built Hard Industries into what it is. I've spent years growing it and managing it and sacrificing everything else for it. But I don't want to do that anymore. I want time. Time with you and Emma. Time to figure out what else I want to do with my life. Time to just exist without it being in service of quarterly earnings. What would you do instead? I don't know yet. That's the exciting part. Maybe consulting, maybe teaching, maybe something completely different. I just know I don't want to be CEO anymore. That was someone else's dream. The old Olivia who thought success meant 60-hour weeks and an empty apartment. This Olivia wants something different. Are you sure? That's a big decision. I'm sure. I've been thinking about it for months, and I finally realized I'm ready. Daniel took her hand. Then do it. Whatever you want to do, we'll make it work. Just like that? Just like that. She kissed him, and they sat there on the balcony surrounded by Emma's plants, planning a future that looked nothing like the lives they'd been living a year ago. And it felt right. All of it felt exactly right. Olivia resigned 2 weeks later. The business news made a big deal out of it. Headlines about the billionaire CEO stepping down, speculation about why, think pieces about women in business and work-life balance. Olivia ignored all of it. Do you have any regrets? Daniel asked after the announcement went public. None. I feel lighter than I have in years. What are you going to do now? Right now, I'm going to pick Emma up from school. Then we're going to get ice cream and go to the park. Tomorrow, I'll figure out what comes next. And she did. She picked Emma up, they got ice cream, they went to the park. And the day after that, she did it again. And the day after that. She started showing up for every school event, every small moment that she'd missed before because of meetings and business trips and the constant demands of running a company. Emma noticed. You're here a lot now, she said one afternoon. Is that okay? It's really okay. I like having you around. I like being around. Good. Because I have a lot of stuff I need help with, like my science project, and learning to ride my bike without training wheels and figuring out if velociraptors or T-Rexes are better. I'm rethinking my position on that. That's a big rethink. I know. But James made some good points. Don't tell him I said that. Your secret's safe with me. They worked on Emma's science project together, something about plant growth that required charts and observations and daily measurements of her balcony garden. They practiced bike riding in the park until Emma finally got it, wobbling down the path with Olivia running beside her shouting encouragement. They debated dinosaur superiority over dinner, Daniel mediating when the arguments got too heated. This was life now. Not perfect, not always easy, but real and full, and exactly what all three of them needed. Fall came around again, bringing Emma's 6th birthday and the anniversary of when Daniel had knocked on Olivia's door to fix a leak. They didn't make a big deal about the anniversary, but Daniel thought about it. How one moment, one decision to not just walk away from the sad woman sitting alone in her penthouse had changed everything. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia asked. They were in the kitchen, making dinner while Emma did homework at the table with Biscuit's head in her lap. Just how random life is. How different everything would be if I hadn't knocked that day. If I'd just fixed the leak and left. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Why not? What made you knock? Daniel thought about it. I recognized something in you. The same emptiness I felt after Sarah died. The same loneliness. And I couldn't just walk away from it. So you saved me. No, you saved yourself. I just asked if you were okay. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes just asking is everything. Emma looked up from her homework. Are you guys being sappy again? Maybe a little, Olivia admitted. Gross. Can you be sappy quieter? I'm trying to concentrate. They laughed and went back to making dinner, and Daniel thought about how asking, "Are you okay?" was maybe the most important thing you could do for someone. Because sometimes people were drowning and they just needed someone to notice, to see them, to care enough to ask. Emma's birthday party that year was smaller, just a few close friends, cake, and a treasure hunt Olivia had designed that involved dinosaur clues, and resulted in Emma finding a new bike helmet decorated with velociraptors. This is the best present ever, Emma declared. Better than the stuffed triceratops from last year? Olivia asked. Okay, tied for best. But it's still really good. After the party, after Emma was asleep with her new helmet carefully placed on her nightstand where she could see it, Daniel and Olivia sat on their balcony like they did most nights now. She's growing up, Olivia said. Too fast. Remember when she was 4 and everything was about dinosaurs? Everything's still about dinosaurs. Fair point. But it's different now. She's different, more independent, more herself. That's what kids do. They grow up and become people. I know. It's just strange sometimes, realizing we're raising a person who's going to go out into the world and make her own decisions and live her own life. That's kind of the point, though, isn't it? We're not trying to keep her small. We're trying to help her grow. Olivia leaned against him. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just didn't notice. I noticed. I've been noticing everything about you since the day you knocked on my door. They sat there while the city hummed around them, while Emma slept safely in her room, while Biscuit snored on the couch inside. And Daniel thought about how life wasn't about the big moments. It wasn't about dramatic declarations or grand gestures or fairy tale endings where everything magically became perfect. It was about this. Quiet nights on a balcony. Teaching a kid to ride a bike. Splitting the grocery bill even when it was unnecessary. Fighting about bedtime and making up 10 minutes later. Growing tomatoes on a balcony and acting like they were the best tomatoes in the world because the person you loved had grown them. It was about seeing someone, really seeing them, and deciding to stay. To show up every day. To build something real out of nothing more than 2 broken people who decided they were tired of being invisible. I love you, Daniel said. I love you too. Even when I'm stubborn? Especially then, Emma called from her room. Can someone get me water? I'll go, Olivia said, getting up. But she paused at the door. Daniel? Yeah? Thank you for knocking, for asking if I was okay, for not walking away. Thank you for opening the door. She smiled and went to get Emma water, and Daniel sat on the balcony a little longer, thinking about doors and knocking, and the way small moments could change everything if you paid attention to them. Inside, he could hear Olivia and Emma talking, something about whether space dinosaurs could exist, and if they'd be cooler than regular dinosaurs. He could hear Biscuit's tags jingling as he relocated from the couch to Emma's room. He could hear the radiator starting up, the neighbors upstairs walking around, the city being alive outside their windows. This was his life. Not the one he'd planned, not the one he'd imagined when he married Sarah or when she died or when he'd spent years just surviving instead of living. But it was good. It was real. It was full of love and noise and people who needed him and whom he needed right back. And that, Daniel thought, was more than enough. That was everything. He went inside, locked the balcony door, and joined his family. His daughter who was growing up too fast. His partner who'd learned how to be happy on purpose. His dog who destroyed expensive things and loved unconditionally. His home that was too small and too loud and absolutely perfect. The leak had been fixed long ago. But what they'd built in its place, this messy, imperfect, beautiful life, that was something worth keeping. Emma was still debating space dinosaurs when Daniel walked in. "Daddy, tell Olivia that space dinosaurs would obviously be cooler because they could float and regular dinosaurs can't." "I'm staying out of this one," Shatan Daniel said. "That's not fair. You have to pick a side." "Fine. I think both are cool for different reasons." "That's a cop-out," Emma said. "Yep, but I'm sticking with it." Olivia caught his eye and grinned, and Daniel grinned back, and somewhere in the distance the city kept humming. Life kept happening, and three people who'd found each other by accident kept choosing each other on purpose. That was the thing about being seen. Once someone really saw you, you couldn't go back to being invisible. You couldn't pretend it didn't matter. You had to show up, be present, let yourself be known. It was terrifying and wonderful and absolutely worth it. Daniel had learned that the night he knocked on a door instead of walking away. Olivia had learned it when she opened that door and let someone see her pain. Emma had learned it by watching two adults figure out how to love each other while loving her. And now they were teaching each other new things every day. How to be patient, how to be present, how to build a life that mattered not because it was impressive or successful or perfect, but because it was theirs and they'd chosen it together. The space dinosaur debate continued until Emma finally fell asleep mid-sentence, and Daniel and Olivia tiptoed out, closing her door softly behind them. In their own room, they got ready for bed in comfortable silence, and when they finally settled under the covers, Olivia said quietly, "I'm really glad you fixed my leak." "Me too. Even though it led to all this chaos, especially because it led to all this chaos." She kissed him, and they fell asleep tangled together. And outside the window, the city kept living, and inside these walls, so did they. Living fully. Living honestly. Living like people who'd finally learned that happiness wasn't something you waited for. It was something you built, one small moment at a time, with people who saw you and chose to stay anyway. That was the real story. Not about rescue or saving or dramatic transformations, just about two people who'd been invisible for different reasons, who'd found each other by accident, and who decided that being seen was worth the risk of everything else. And it was. It really, really was.